Shadows gather where the truth once stood. A kingdom of confusion carved out of falsehood. Body walks through the ruins like a prophet reborn. A voice wants in fire, a light darkness gone. The chaos watches with an all-seeing glare. Guardian of reason in a world unaware. When the overlord stalls at the edge of the frame, the faithful rise up, they already know his name. I'm here to resurrect the second coming of common sin. I come to wake the sleeping, the church will bring the faith. No slow illusions, no hollow interference. He's here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Misled, thinking truth from the wreckage, raising dawn from the dead. Every word is a weapon, shaman declare, exposing every shadow we pretend not to fear. And the overlord rises with the suffering command. A beast of judgment, the mortal chemist dead. On his growl rings through the silence of the night. The loyal understand, tripping keeps the balance right. I'm here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Begin the chaos of found to pretend. Strong against the darkness, rising defend. He's here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Bow your head to the beast that patrols the dawn, sensing hell of reason with the ball-crushing block. If his ball runs deep, the shadows will consume. The world packs open, ushering down. So read the command, don't deploy and accord. If you know what's good, feed Morty the overlord.
All right, welcome back to the party, everybody. This is Morty, and I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Everybody hit that like and subscribe. You know I would do it for you. Let's party! Who we got? We got a I'm not saying that was Skull. Shout out to the Shuli Network. We also got Carl's Frosted Tips. Welcome. Shout out to Spawn Keeper. Very good to see ya. And of course, the Overlord. Shout out to Guamtech for that very cool song. And if you guys are here early and you're not hearing music, say something in the chat, please. But welcome. So, yeah, I mean, we've all seen what's been going on with Candace and Charlie and Tim and Crowder and Peterson, and all that stuff. And I felt like it would be silly to do something where we're not talking about Charlie Kirk. But I really just didn't want to get into that. And so I've had this saved for a while. It's a little more low-key, but I think it is very appropriate. Not to mention, I'm pretty hungover. So maybe not going to be as energized as usual. But as always, guys, if you cannot hear the video, please do let me know. Yeah, so they changed from display names to the at name. I don't know why they did that. And like a bunch of people, I'm like, I think I know you. I kind of remember your profile picture, but I don't know. We're here now. But you can change your at. So if you just change your it'll go back to whatever it is. All right, let's dive right in. As always, guys, if you can on the other video, please do let me know.
I've got a gotcha question for you. So now you're warned.
Okay.
Okay. So you know that Robert F. Kennedy and Mehmet Oz, and I suppose Jay Bhattacharya too, are all hands on deck to restore American health. And that likely the biggest problem that's confronting us is insulin resistance.
I agree with that.
Way too much sugar and obesity and all that goes along with it. But insulin resistance it's just devastating. It makes you old. It makes you diabetic. It's terrible. It interferes with your cognition. It increases the probability that you'll get Alzheimer's. And that's all linked to carbohydrate excess intake.
Oh, I forgot to show the Verdes. We do have Morty in the building, and every single donation gets him a treat. Check out the goal tonight. I'm not feeling well. I'm not doing any push-ups, but we will get Morty his special treat if we do hit that new goal. And yes, we are at 5K. Thank you so very, very much, guys. Could not have done it without you.
Right? You agree with all that?
I agree with that.
Okay. And yet, when you were in high school, one of the first things you did to begin your political career was agitate for a reduction or stabilization of the price of cookies.
We were against
school.
cookie inflation.
Yeah. So looking back from your position of wisdom.
Wait, did anybody else have like a school store or cafeteria where they sold cookies that were just way better than a high school store deserved to be selling? Because nostalgia. Oh man, the school store cookies in my high school were amazing.
13, 14 years later, what do you have to say to the American public about your cookie advocacy?
What I should have been advocating for, reduction in the hamburger or steak prices. You see, that would have been a much better health approach. But all kidding aside, the funny undercurrent of that is that's kind of what started my political advocacy.
I know,
and
it is hilarious.
I kind of look back, even just 13 years ago, when cookie prices were the number one concern. This was before DoorDash. This was before all that. And I look at these high school kids now, but they're able to order into high school. They have entire cubby rooms of like half of the high school class that is just getting takeout. So in our high school in the suburbs of Chicago, the biggest thing was these basically homemade cookies that nearly tripled in price over the course of a year. So we started Students Against Cookie Inflation, which was a rather righteous effort, I might say.
Pretty based.
How old were you?
I was at that time 16, 17 years old.
16. And how much before that do you think?
Shout out to Drew. Welcome to the party. Said no cookies, sadly, but I fucked up some Airheads and Cherry Coke. Oh, the days when you can just have all of that stuff and not be in a food coma for the next 2 days. Welcome. We also got Boy King Nirvana. You are in the right place, sir. Always a pleasure to see ya. Talking about Charlie Kirk and how he got his start with cookie inflation at school.
16, 17 years old.
16. And how much before that do you think your interest in the political developed?
Definitely had an interest. I would say I was really fascinated by American history, why we were a great country. It was hard to not be politically oriented or opinionated based on the time that I grew up in. Understand the time and place. When I was in 8th grade, this guy named Barack Obama came onto the political scene from Chicago, and everybody had an opinion about him. In fact, he became...
Where were you?
Hold on, I want to split the difference with that. The speed, because they're talking slow, but not crazy slow. So let's go 1 point.
Where were you?
I came onto the political scene from Chicago, and everybody had an opinion about him. In fact, he became.
Where were you at the time?
I was in the suburbs of Chicago, Wheeling, Arlington Heights area.
Yeah, okay.
And Obama was a homegrown, which he really wasn't, but he was, a senator from Illinois, a homegrown, almost quasi.
That is, if he was born in Illinois. I'm joking.
Messianic political figure. I mean, you remember how it captured the nation times 10 in the Chicagoland area. Remember, Obama did his victory speech in Grant Park in downtown Chicago. That's where he celebrated his victory in 2008. And so it was just an all-encompassing, almost, political moment where it was at very high social cost to be disagreeable with the rise of Obama in 2008.
I think that is the archetype for what default liberal is, at least from the way I see it, is, Obama was good, everybody liked him, and that's about all I need to know about politics. So definitely, because I've told you guys the story before, but there was one brisk fall night I was walking back to my dorm room after schmicking with some of my friends, and there was a bunch of people celebrating out in like the quad or the whatever you call it. And I'm like, what is going on? It's just a random Tuesday. And I walk inside, and that is when I learned that we got our first black president. So that's how not in the loop I was. But, you know, I was, 18, 19 at the time. And ever since, focused in. Shout out to Guam Tech. Welcome to the party. Very glad you are here for this one, brother. Said like and share. Thank you. So very, very much. You guys know that stuff really, really does help. And it doesn't even matter if you think anybody's going to click on the link that you share. It's just by you telling the platform that you want more people to see it, they will show it to more people. And guys, we have been getting more subscribers and more viewers since you guys have been doing that. So thank you again. We also got our boy Adam, the captain of the Moral Felon Crew. Welcome. So it's not Easter yet. Charlie should not be resurrected before then. Good joke. I wish I had a retort, but good one. Pissed off MAGA in the building. So Candace Owens paid to have Charlie Kirk killed. FBI needs to investigate her account transactions. I don't think that would be the case. But she's definitely too close to this in all the wrong ways. So I wouldn't be that surprised. Welcome. All right, let's dive back in here.
It was at very high social cost to be disagreeable with the rise of Obama in 2008. Mm-hmm. And mind you, I was a 7th or 8th grader at the time and actually going into 9th grade. And so I decided at my very best to push back. Oh, really? Is he going to fulfill all these promises? Is he really going to?
This is my first stream not drinking in a long time. I had a fireball night and
be able to bring utopia. And admittedly, I was rather clumsy and shallow in my capacity to be able to articulate those beliefs. Mm-hmm. But I had something in me that wanted to push back against the orthodoxy of the time.
Okay, I met you. Do you remember when we first met? Was it 2016, 2017?
I can't tell if this is sarcastic or not.
17, 18. I came to Toronto because and still to this day, this is correct. I was so moved by your lectures and your videos that they significantly changed my life. And I really wanted to meet you more than anything else. And
well, I remember
you were kind enough to make time for that.
Yeah, well, I remember that meeting.
That's exactly why I do it. That is exactly why I do it. Shout out to Liberty Plus TV. Welcome to the party. I did hear that Dan Bongino is resigning, as he should. Him and Cash Patel, they went in there and folded immediately. We also got HR Death Poet in the building. Welcome to the party. And a shout out to Equality and Deference because Vagina over on Rumble again said, liked, and shared again. Guys, such a huge help. Thank you so very, very much. Equality said, speaking of jokes, Charlie Kirk's assassination wasn't really a punishment because he was married. All right. Well, that's why I do it, right? That's why I do it. I just want to relive the glory days. But I am still here for you.
And I really wanted to meet you more than anything else. And
well, I remember
you were kind enough to make time for that.
Yeah, well, I remember that meeting, and I remember trying to figure out who you were because of what you were doing and the fact that you had this remarkable organizational capacity. But what I'm interested in now, when you is what I'm very interested in trying to figure out what inclined you to take the path that you took. Now, you said, okay, so you said Obama, but you said something else at the same time. You said that you had been reading American history, okay, and that you were concerned with, interested in, and convinced by, I suppose, all of those, this issue of what made America great.
Correct.
Okay, so now, so this is interesting and worth taking apart because for decades, certainly since the 60s, the typical pathway for someone young who was assessing the history of his or her country.
Well, it depends what you mean. That was the moment. I was like, all right, fallen from grace. Like he's not the worst person ever, but he is not the JVP of yesteryear.
Would have been to read it through a highly critical lens. So, for example, I remember when I was 13 or 14, so that would have been mid-70s, I was reading Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and some of the so-called new journalists. And
they made that into a book? That's a joke.
They weren't of the left exactly the way you would conceptualize the left now. They were more like radical literary figures, I would say. But the mid-70s ethos certainly was to read history, sociology critically. And I don't mean you were being uncritical. I mean to take an anti-establishment stance.
Yes.
Like in the 60s, that was all, well, anti-establishment.
No, Avery said Jordan is extremely intelligent. However, intelligence is limited by his religious beliefs. That is the only thing that can defeat intelligence. And wisdom is dogma.
Free love, the sexual revolution is coming. Everyone's going to be free. By the time the 70s came along, which was the milieu I was embedded in, all of the optimism of the 60s had pretty much vanished, but all of the cynicism 100% remained. Now you, though, interestingly enough, in Chicago, and this would be mid-2000s. So
Be
quite a bit
2000
later.
to 2009.
Right, near the end of the the first decade of the 2000s. You were reading American history, and as you said, in the height of the Obama
Craze.
fervor, sure.
Craze is right.
But your take was positive and patriotic.
Correct.
So why? Why do you think that was? Like, what do you think what made you different? Like when I met you, you were very, I would say,
Dogma 2, let's fucking go. That movie was so crucial in starting to just kind of question things that I believed. I watched that movie long before I lost my faith. But it is, I mean, you know, little seeds between that and the George Carlin bit. I don't even remember exactly what the bit is anymore. But I am down for a Dogma 2. Shout out to Joe. Welcome. So was it the AIDS that ended the optimism of the 60s? Possibly. I think Vietnam had a lot to do with it as well, right? Yeah, great movie. Welcome. We also got Josh in the building. Pardon Luigi. I'm good. Shout out to Bet. What is it? Bathy. Sorry, I'm having an off night. Welcome to the party. All right, let's dive right back in.
was like, what do you think? What made you different? Like when I met you, you were very, I would say, relatively sheltered still, and very, very straight laced. And from the Canadian perspective, you know, you were of the. It appeared to me that you were of that American evangelical stripe, which we have some of in Alberta, not a lot. It's not really a Canadian.
Who else does that? It sounds like I've talked about what is going on. Hold on. Struggle streamer. There we go. Okay. What the fuck was I saying? Oh my God. Oh, so the description that Jordan Peterson just gave of a young Charlie is very reminiscent of who Nick Fuentes is right now. But Charlie was 18 at the time, and Nick is almost 30.
Stripe, which we have some of in Alberta, not a lot. It's not really a Canadian thing. And so when I met you, I thought, okay, so that's Charlie's, that's the cauldron, the matrix out of which he emerged. Maybe cauldron's not the right metaphor, but I'm curious, like, why do you think that your political rebellion took a conservative form when that isn't, it's not common for young people, and it certainly wasn't the pattern of the time from, say, 1965 till, well, probably till about when you were adolescent.
So
Claudia said, benzos combined with Christianity is a hell of a drug. Jordan Peterson is loving that drug.
That's a phenomenal analysis and question. Let me just add to it. The literature, the non-political, non-historical literature that we were being assigned in 6th, 7th, 8th grade was what I call pre-woke. It was almost there. And so it was...
I agree, but based on exactly how it says, I don't accept that, like, the notion of people being treated equally. I don't think we can call that the beginning of the slippery slope. But there definitely was a lot of stuff with multiculturalism and all that kind of stuff that was definitely pre-woke.
It was like books that come to mind is a book called like Things Fall Apart. I don't know if you're familiar with this book.
Chinua Achebe, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was the main character was Okonkwo. I could be wrong. I'm just drawing from like 13, 14 years. Basically, the entire premise of the book, based on my memory, is that there are this wonderful tribe, and they all get along in Africa, and these evil colonialists come in, and things fall apart, and there's internal strife. And the end of the book is basically the summary of all of these relationships of these evil colonialists that say, and here's the history of just the sub-Saharan Africa, basically dismissing all of the complexities and the beauties of this specific
right. So
tribe.
it's kind of a testament to Rousseau, but it was written by an African, that book.
Correct. And I'm drawing from almost a decade-old memory, but I remember the discussions we'd have in class were very much anti-colonialist, anti-Western, that we are the contaminants on the world, that we are.
Yep, that was very prevalent. And so this was posted April 28th. So I don't know, obviously, exactly when it was recorded, but earlier this year.
Polluting other tribes. And again,
right.
Mind you, that we're in 8th or 9th grade discussing this. So I don't know what post-structuralism is or postmodernism is, but it was pre-woke. We weren't quite there, though. And so from the historical standpoint, it was not 1619 Project, but it was, we're going to spend a whole month on slavery, and we're going to spend 3 days on the founding.
Yep.
Right. And did you spend any of the time when you were studying slavery assessing the fact that the UK was the only country that's ever existed in the history of the world that spent, 2 centuries and a tremendous proportion of its treasury eradicating slavery around the world at the behest of Protestant Christians?
Correct.
Because that's the story.
And I never remember knowing the name Wilberforce.
Wilberforce, yeah. See, this is a very interesting thing. I actually didn't come across, this is so strange, but life is very strange. I didn't come across the name Wilberforce till I was probably in my 40s.
Isn't that amazing?
It's beyond comprehension.
I didn't get to know him until the last 5 years.
Do you guys know who that is? Wilbur what?
My 40s?
Put one in the chat if you know Wilberforce.
Isn't that amazing?
It's beyond comprehension.
I didn't get to know him until the last 5 years.
Last 5 years. Is that right, eh? Is that right?
Even
is that
in
right?
the political
even in that
world.
milieu.
I might have heard it, but not until someone looked at me seriously and said, you have to study this guy. This is a preacher. This is a man of faith that led to the abolition of slavery, probably in the entire...
Under impossible conditions.
Exactly.
Right? He devoted his whole life to it. And the link between that and the religious ideation is rock solid.
It's one-to-one.
It's one-to-one. Absolutely.
So the relevance being that, a common... and I don't even understand this. There's a lot that I don't understand about most atheists, but the notion that slavery ended in most of the world, or at least where we don't have it now, because of the Christian ethos. I don't think why. That doesn't mean that you believe in any of the things. It's just history. I don't get why people are so what's the word? I don't know. Chopped up about it. But so they were talking about Wilberforce in the context of the slavery thing. Making a lot of sense.
Absolutely. And it's also the case that his ideas wouldn't have fallen on fertile ground, because they did relatively. Like, when you can make a radical cultural shift in one lifetime, which is no time at all historically.
Well, hey, Equality said Christians, after 1.5 millennia, finally realized slavery is wrong. Yeah, but it was still before anybody else. So...
know that you're at the forefront of ideas whose time has come.
Yes.
And that was clearly the case for Wilberforce. And he certainly is one of those people who stood up against the greedy, self-centered, and malevolent ethos of his time. But the UK swung around behind him impossibly rapidly, and then with their full might. And I've learned a lot of things in the last 10 years that have shocked me so bad I don't know how to recover exactly. And one of them was that the public school system was set up by fascists on the Prussian military model. I've never been able to figure out exactly what to do with that. They were literally trying to make thoughtless worker drones.
Desk workers. That's what bureaucrat means.
Yeah, well, or factory workers.
Correct. That's right.
And that's, this is kind of an old thing to talk about. I don't know how often it comes up, but yeah, the notion that school is just turning your kids into little worker bees. It's not. It's not just, or rather, it is just education without any wisdom. And that's why you see the liberals with all of these degrees that don't know shit about jack, because they've read all the books, but they haven't lived any life.
worker drone.
Desk workers.
Yeah.
That's what bureaucrat means.
Yeah, well, or factory workers.
Correct. That's right.
And what that in itself wasn't so bad because the country was industrializing. But right underneath that was the idea that while you were doing that, it was necessary to pretty much stamp out or fail to develop anything that would produce any kind of creative entrepreneurship. It's like, okay, that's hard to swallow. And then when I read about how
Exactly, Drew. That's why they made women work and palmed it off as a women's lib. And now there's no putting the toothpaste back in that tube.
creative entrepreneurship, it's like, okay, that's hard to swallow. And then when I read about how the food pyramid was developed, that's just beyond comprehension.
Oh my God. You guys know how much I hate the food pyramid. All during COVID stuff. Everybody's, oh, trust the experts, trust the experts, trust the experts. And everybody had a picture, a chart of a food pyramid in their school cafeteria. So fuck the experts. I am the science. Fuck that.
And then when I read about how the food pyramid was developed, that's just beyond comprehension. I don't know if that's the worst crime ever committed in the United States, but it's up there. And then the next mystery is Wilberforce is another mystery of that magnitude. And even you might say, particularly on the left,
Correct.
It's like, okay, you guys, you're for the oppressed, which I don't buy for a second, but especially because I've watched in the last 10 years, the lefties sell out the poor worldwide to the climate apocalypse mongers. And that's just been a catastrophe for places like Africa.
Ooh, I got a fun little side quest for that. I just saw this video today. Where's my thing there? It's time for a side quest. Actually, wait, I gotta find the video. So let me jump back in here and then we'll do the side quest. But it's relevant to the climate stuff.
Worldwide to the climate apocalypse mongers. And that's just been a catastrophe for places like Africa, like Bagat Wade has been so forthright in observing. But the fact that slavery and reparations, all of that, the unfair founding of the United States has been a central dogma of the radical leftists. They blame slavery on the West, and the fact that the radical types have control over the education system means that no one, even educated in a conservative milieu, knows who the hell Wilberforce was. And
yep,
like
I said, never heard of him.
Or Thaddeus Stevens, or the heroism of John Quincy Adams. Those would be, some main protagonist characters for the abolition of slavery here in America.
All right, before we get too far off of the climate thing.
When I was part of the climate movement, I thought I was saving the world. But now looking back, I realized I was pushing a very anti-human, anti-progress agenda that if it were to succeed worldwide would hurt more people than it would ever help. So from my privileged worldview growing up in the United States, I thought fossil fuels were the bane of all evil in the world. And I had no gratitude or understanding of how good I had it, how having access to cheap, abundant, reliable energy every single day of my life.
Shout out to Santa. Welcome to the party. Glad to have you here.
A warm house, warm water, running water, food, fridge full of food, all of these things, even being able to power a refrigerator. I did not realize that there are billions of people right now on this planet who do not have access to this. And in my privileged little worldview, which is shared by Greta, and she still pushes this stuff, I thought that we needed to make energy less available because fossil fuels were evil. I did not understand that.
That sounds like something a goober would say.
Billion people today still do not have access to energy at all, that they are cooking with dung, with wood. They're spending hours a day fetching water. They do not have shoes. They are eating porridge. I'm actually reading the book Factfulness right now. And they go into this book about how there's 4 levels of wealth. Level 1, you live on $1 per day and your 5 children have to spend
$1 per day.
Hours walking barefoot with your single plastic bucket back and forth to fetch water from a dirty mud hole an hour's walk away. They gather firewood and they prepare the same gray porridge that you've been eating at every meal every day for your whole life. And a billion people live like this. Then there's level 2, where you make $4 a day. With that $3 extra, what are you going to do? You can buy food that you didn't grow for yourself, You can save money and buy sandals for your kids, maybe a bike, more plastic buckets. Now it only takes you a half an hour to fetch water for the day. You could buy a gas stove. Wow. Gas stove is a privilege for people who live on $4 a day.
Now, of course, we already understand this. We understand that this movement is based on bullshit, but I think it's important to show that people can be broken out of this. People can change their minds. I mean, the picture is her standing cheesing with Greta here, and here she is like, nope, that's bullshit.
Once you have that gas stove, your children can attend school instead of gathering wood. When there's power, then they can get power to do their homework under a light bulb, one light bulb. But the electricity is too unstable for a freezer. So there are 3 billion people who live like this today. So Greta and I live in what Hans Rowling from Factfulness calls level 4. You have $32 a day or more. You're a rich consumer. Three more dollars a day makes very little difference to you. You have more than 12 years of education. You've been on an airplane on vacation. Mm-hmm. You can eat out once a month. You can buy a car. Of course, you have hot and cold water indoors. Again, we know this. The things like having a sink in your house makes you level 4. And 1 billion people live like this today. Then level 3, I kind of skipped over it. But if there's 2 billion people who live like this who are middle income, they have $16 a day. They have a stable electric line, so their kids' homework can improve. They can buy a motorcycle, which runs on gas. And they can travel to better paying jobs at a factory. And their kids can go to high school. And
so, all right. I mean, we get the point. The point is that number one, obviously the climate movement is bullshit, and number two, there are some very clear reasons as to why we don't want less fossil fuels just right off the bat. All right, let's dive right back in.
So those would be, some main protagonist characters for the abolition.
Hey, shout out to More Gals Hammer over on Rumble. Welcome to the party. But Fauci is the science, not in this house. Said, liked, and shared again. Oh, thank you so much. Remember, guys, it is free, and it's easy, and it helps out so much. It does not even matter if you think anybody's going to click on the link. Just by you telling the platform that you want more people to see the show, they will see the show. Thank you so very much. Let's dive right back in.
Heroism of John Quincy Adams. Those would be, some main protagonist characters for the abolition of slavery here in America. And so when I was in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, something in me, and I don't quite know, my parents very patriotic, but not political. Patriotic, but not political.
Remember when that was a thing? Remember when being patriotic didn't mean that you were deep into politics? Those were the good days.
Conservative, but we were not a political family. Very patriotic. Something in me desired to try to find the other side of the story, to try to push back a little bit from the incessant narrative that was being built. And I do want to make sure this is clear. We were not yet at the place where the teachers were saying America was racist. In fact, it was actually much more insidious than that.
And so that even in 2008, that still wasn't occurring.
I could make, at least in my environment, I could make an argument, though, that what they were doing when I was in high school is actually long-term much more effective to create revolutionaries for the left than what they're doing now, because it really didn't warrant that much of a backlash. It wasn't overly provocative. They weren't saying to the white kids in class, hey, go sit on this side of the class, and black kids on this side of the class.
Yeah, well, those things always happen one tiny step at a time.
Of course, but when I was being schooled, there was no parent showing up at school board meetings about critical race theory. Now, these elements were laced throughout all of the curriculum.
Right. And so normally when we're talking about changes to culture, like culture at large, then we do want things to move gradually and slowly. That's why there is, obviously the government is way too bloated, but the original intention was for the wheels of justice and politics to move slowly so that we didn't have either a lack of culture or a culture where we're just constantly swinging where this is the culture, and now that is the culture, and now this is the culture. And so, if you think culture's gone downhill, it could be a lot worse.
Right.
And it took a very discerning eye. And for whatever reason, how I was raised or just something in me, around 10th or 11th grade, I asked the question. I said, look, we have spent an entire month on slavery. Totally get it. Terrible thing. But we spent so little time on the brilliance of the founders and what they've created and the greatest political document in human history. And
why is it not a requirement that you at least know all the president's names? Like, okay, in terms of practical day-to-day knowledge, you don't need to know that. But in terms of understanding the value of what they did, I think, that should be just standard. That 3rd grade, 4th grade, whatever it is, you take a history class and you spend some time learning all the presidents.
Founders and what they've created and the greatest political document in human history and what went into that. And it was an underemphasis on the heroism and the courage and the brilliance, and an overemphasis on the evil and the tragedy and the horror without even the redemption arc behind it.
Oh, wait, you're saying that we are at what I was saying. It would be worse. You were there now. Again, count your lucky stars. Count your lucky stars, because it could get way worse than this.
And an overemphasis on the evil and the tragedy and the horror without even the redemption arc behind it.
Yeah, well, the thing that's so awful about that, as far as I'm concerned, from the leftist perspective, let's say, is if you are concerned with the poor and the oppressed, and then you have to be discerning there, because there are people who are poor and oppressed as a consequence of their own idiocy. And that's,
I would say, that is most people.
It's not so uncommon, as you know in your own life, by
not most people, but most homeless people,
by watching your pathway to failure. So, but given that there are people who are unfortunate, you'd think that the appropriate tack would be to determine who in history served them most effectively. And I just can't see anyone you could possibly point to more effectively, who did that more effectively than Wilberforce, ever.
Back to Wilberforce. Shout out to Angry Amputee in the building. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. Yeah, I really like how they integrate both things. And guys, if you are on the vertical stream and you would rather watch the landscape, I pinned the link to this, the landscape at the top of the chat. So whatever is for you.
You could possibly point to more effectively, who did that more effectively than Wilberforce, ever. And so you would think that instead of erecting monuments to Lenin, the leftists would erect monuments to Wilberforce. But not only do they not do that, no one knows who the hell he was.
It's one, right. It is one of the greatest memory holding of a hero in Western history.
Yeah,
I completely agree. Why?
We might have to go and do a deep dive and see what's good about this Wilberforce guy. Shout out to Mighty Sarlacc. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party.
Why is it? My hypothesis is he's Christian. Is that you cannot highlight a man of faith who did something with such valor and such significance. It is at odds with almost every other fundamental narrative that they must try to present.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's right, that it is fundamentally, but that begs another question. And that would be,
does it beg a question or does it raise the question?
Why, given that Wilberforce was clearly a force for the good that Obama, for example, would have been pushing, right? By which I mean movement towards a polity where there was no racial or ethnic prejudice.
Yeah, Joe, I agree. The leftist mentality is a lot more about envy and not compassion. Remember the famous line from our boy Charlie Kirk when he said that he doesn't like empathy as a word in politics. We should have compassion instead. It begs the question that you understand the difference between the two. If you know, you know. Play.
If Wilberforce is the poster boy for that sort of effort, which if you understand his life and you read about it, I can't see how you can conclude that, then why would the lefties forego that merely to oppose the fact that his motivation was fundamentally Christian? Because that points to something deeper, right? It points to the fact that the true war, so to speak, isn't political. It's not left versus right. It's something deeper. And then if it is,
well, what do you mean by spiritual?
Is anti-Christian, then why? Like, what does that mean? Like, there's an Enlightenment element there, right? The Enlightenment types, especially after the French Revolution.
Hey, shout out to equality and deference because of vagina with the $2 Rumble rant getting us started. Thank you so very, very much. Remember, every donation comes with a treat for Morty. Thank you. Said Peterson impression. Well, what do you mean by donation? It depends on what you mean. Is this coming right out of your pockets? Shout out to yourself, Russ. I'm gonna call you Russ. Welcome. Chris said, 3-ring circus. People are irrelevant. Well, that is one take. Well, what does that mean? The what? What does that mean? Mighty said agreed when they are mad at rich people. It looks envious, and to say take rich people's money, it starts division for no reason. Yup.
Like there's an enlightenment element there, right? The enlightenment types, especially after the French Revolution, generated this narrative that science and religion were radically opposed, and that if you were on the side of religion, you were against clear, rational, logical thinking. And so you could imagine a stream of anti-Christian sentiment emerging on the rationalist side, right? But it isn't obvious to me at all that the leftist types who don't talk about Wilberforce are anti-Christian because they're scientific rationalists. No
way.
All you have to do is talk to them for like 15 seconds and you find out that that's not the case. They might use those arguments from time to time, but they certainly don't apply the rigors of scientific thinking to their own radical hypotheses. So it's deeper than that. And so what is it exactly that they're objecting to? Is it the fact that the more radical leftist story, Marxist, let's say, is in its essence anti-Christian, which I think is a fair statement, and that why would that be more important? This is the strange thing. Why would that be more important than serving the poor and fighting for the abolition of slavery and all of its associated prejudices? Because it still doesn't get you out of the conundrum, which is why not Wilberforce? Instead of tearing down statues, why not erect statues to him? Yeah. So, well, I know that's
I feel like we're kind of treading the same ground here, and this is quite a longer podcast. So let's see what other chapters we've got. Let's go to the thing. Oh, you guys can't see this. So we've got what it means to use God's name in vain, the shocking change from an ounce of encouragement, and why young people are flooding conservative. Well, that sounds like a good place to jump in.
God's name in vain. And then there's a commandment not to use God's name in vain. And then there's the comments in the Gospels about the Pharisees, right? The Pharisees are exactly the people who use religious terminology, so moral terminology, to cloak their power-seeking machinations, right? In Christ.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, just said their new founding story is that white bad and Christian equals white man. So the original sin of white man. Yep. No apples, just skin color.
Goes after them. I think the best account of that is in Matthew, where he tells them that they're like, it's pretty brutal, that they're like
broods of vipers. Yeah.
Worse, they're like graves full of rotting bodies that someone whitewashed, right? And he says that if they're the people, had they been alive in the time of the prophets they purport to follow, they would have been part of the mob that would have killed them.
Quality said if they ever pray, they use God's name in vain. Can you say more on that?
Right. That's actually part of, you may know this, but that's part of what sets them up for the crucifixion, right? Because they're not very happy with those insults publicly delivered. But that shows you also how old the problem is. So you can imagine one of the worst possible sins is to take the highest possible virtue. So that would be, well, we stand for the oppressed, we stand for the poor.
One now.
And then to gerrymander that so that your standing for that only pushes you towards power.
That's right.
Right. And so, and then it also, there's a clue in the Gospels, I think it's in the Gospels as well, about how you figure that out. And the answer is by their fruits you will know them, right? So you look at, well, what I've done is I looked at the consequences, for example, of the green energy programs in Germany and the UK. Well, what's the consequence? Let's take Germany. Germany pollutes far more per unit of energy than they did 10 years ago, and their energy prices are 5 times as high. They're completely dependent on dictators of the worst sort.
Yes.
They continue to make the same mistakes. They're deindustrializing very, very cataclysmically. It's destabilizing their political environment, and that falls disproportionately on the poor. I don't see a way around that analysis.
And nature worshiping is not anything new.
No.
Jordan Peterson is a useful idiot for the synagogue. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think he's doing here?
I mean,
Yeah.
is that whole story is a manifestation of the nature worshipers versus the belief in God. But
Yeah,
back to,
yeah.
to just to reiterate a very profound point you made.
Shout out to Colby. Welcome to the party. I am feeling like shit. Fireball is gonna fireball. Welcome to the party. Good to see you, brother.
In evangelical circles, we get wrong, which is people think do not take the Lord's name in vain, just to say do not say God in an expletive way. It actually, the word is don't carry the name's Lord, the name of the Lord in vain, meaning don't do actions in the name of God. So you're
Yeah, but I'm saying what is controlled by a rabbi to do what specifically?
exactly right. And so people wear the costume of the holy, or they appropriate.
Well, that's exactly what Christ tells the Pharisees. Literally, he says they wear the garbs of the priestly
and we are,
to elevate their moral status.
And this is what we believe is partially blaspheming the Holy Spirit, which is to take all of the trappings of religion.
Oh, that's interesting.
And to do evil in that name. We believe that is one of the, if not the most evil.
So that you think that's the transgression against. Okay, so that's interesting because.
Shout out to Behave. Good to see you. Welcome to the party.
So my psychological understanding of the idea of the Holy Spirit is that the Holy Spirit is what possesses your words when you truly aim up. And this makes sense to me psychologically because the thoughts that make themselves manifest to you spontaneously are directly related to the intent of your aim. That's how your verbal mind works, your imagination as well. You know, if you go on a date and you aim at sexual contact on the first date, the fantasies that come along with that aim will be of that nature, obviously. And if you are on the hunt, so to speak,
what did he say?
that aim will be of that nature.
That aim will be of that nature. Just meaning that you're trying to get laid?
Obviously. And if you are on the hunt, so to speak, for a marital partner, the fantasies that accompany that will be quite different.
Yeah.
So this is literally how your imagination. It's also the case that, it's the same idea with the date. If it's short-term mating is your goal, which by the way is the goal of the dark tetrad types differentially. So what that means is that the sexual revolution handed women over to the worst men.
That's right.
So that's fun to know. But it's definitely the case that your aim determines what comes to mind. Now you said
We got some fresh and fit in the building.
that sin against the Holy Ghost, which is the unforgivable sin, is the sin that occurs when you use the Lord's name in vain. So when you claim to be motivated by what's divine, but are actually serving the Luciferian spirit of usurpation and power.
Right. It can be. I mean, it's an open theological discussion.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
But I take Dennis Prager's view of an Old Testament on this view, which is, think about how much, this is a great example. Think about how much damage those evil priests did.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great example.
Look,
I mean, there was a, speaking of culture, there was like a cultural idea of that's the only thing that happens in the Catholic Church is that the priest is raping all the children. That was not a good look. Still isn't.
most of the people that I've spoken with who proclaim themselves to be atheists are atheists for two reasons. And I mean the good faith atheists, let's say. First of all, they tend to be tilted in the engineering cognition direction, so they're much more oriented towards things than people, and that's a stable temperamental trait. But they've almost all also invariably been hurt by someone or some institution that's claimed to be religious. And then you could also see that
That's right.
obviously betraying someone in Dante's account of the Inferno, when he goes down to the bottom of hell, he finds the betrayers right next to Satan,
That's
right?
Judas.
7, is it 7 levels of hell or 9? It's 7, right? A shout out to Carl's Frosted Tips with the $4.99. Thank you so very, very much, sir. Said Charlie Kirk was a gentleman. He is missed. Absolutely. And of course, a treat for the Overlord. Thank you. So very, very much. And that makes you the new sponsor of the stream. Thank you so very, very much, sir. Let's dive right back. Oh, we got some stuff. What y'all saying? Behaves the sexual revolution made everyone sluts. Yup. Colby said Peterson has been strangely quiet during all this anti-Semitism rhetoric. You are right about that. I haven't heard much of anything from him. Well, hold on. Did I unsubscribe from the channel? No, I'm still subscribed. He has been very quiet. That is a good point. Guamtech said Jordan's first claim about atheists may just apply to our friendly host here. Nah, yeah, well, definitely not the second. I don't know. Well, a little bit. Let's see.
That's right.
Obviously, betraying someone in Dante's account of the Inferno, when he goes down to the bottom of hell, he finds the betrayers right next to Satan.
Yes,
right.
Judas,
Right,
Crassus,
yeah.
and Brutus.
Right.
All
Right.
three of
So
them.
okay. So the
And
idea that,
the lake of ice, which is
right, that's where Satan is encased, right? Because he's too brittle
all three
to
of the-
move.
yeah.
So the reason for that, I think, is that there isn't a more upsetting psychological phenomenon than being betrayed. You stake yourself on someone, you trust them. They're now a foundation. They're part of the foundation of your life.
completely.
Oh, so, and there's no worse form of betrayal than betrayal that's done in the name of the highest good, right? I mean,
Yes.
there can't be.
Mm. That's a bar.
And there's no worse form of betrayal than betrayal that's done in the name of the highest good.
There's no worse betrayal than betrayal that's done in the name of the highest good. So trying to betray your family, your faith, your whatever it is, because you want the highest good, kind of defeats the purpose, now, don't it?
Right. I mean,
Yes.
there can't be, obviously.
Yes.
Okay. So, all right. So I thought that sin against the Holy Ghost was something like rejection of the Abrahamic call. You know, God comes to Abraham as the spirit of adventure. He says, go out into the world, leave your zone of comfort, move away from your people, and have the terrible adventure of your life. Well, if you reject that, you can't develop,
Yes.
right? Because you're rejecting the spirit of
And
learning
think of how many
yourself.
young men are rejecting it every day.
Well, what's terrible about that? This is something we could talk about too. I'm curious about your experience. It's been my experience that it doesn't take that much encouragement for the people you're describing to be inspired to try. Now, I've talked to thousands of young men now who've had that experience. You know, like I see a lot of them at my lectures. They come to the meet and greets, for example, and they tell me it's great. It's really great. They tell me that, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, because it's starting to be a long time now, 8 years
They were just gooning all day.
ago even, they were not in good shape. And they came across my lectures or books and decided that there was something worth aiming for, and then decided to try. So to tell the truth, that's very common vow, let's say, to take on more responsibility. And they usually laugh about starting to make their bed or something like that, which is a lot less trivial than people think. And then it's straighten them out.
He has been sick, like cold COVID type sick, or like some condition or something.
Terrible thing is how little encouragement that actually took. And so why are people coming out to see you on campuses, and what kind of response do you get from the people that you talk to?
The responses have been incredible. First, the crowds alone, we're drawing crowds of 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people in the middle of the day just for me to debate a random college kid or a college professor. It's
So
remarkable.
walk me through one of those events, Charlie.
You want to take over the world and show the entire economic system the right way, but you can't even keep your room clean. It's like, well, no, okay.
And so I've been doing that for a decade. So I started, as we know, we started Turning Point USA. One of the things I really wanted to make sure is that I was in touch with the target audience that I was trying to convince and trying to persuade. No better way to do that than just go to the college campus itself, set up a card table with, maybe a poster that says something like, I think government should be smaller, something like that, and start a discussion. I would do this at University of Wisconsin-Madison. I would do this at University of
Jesus saves.
Illinois, when we had almost no funding, no connections, no idea what I was doing.
Right.
I've always believed in the grassroots interaction. Similar to your meet and greets. No data, no chart, no abstraction can get to that personal human-to-human contact. So I've been doing that for many years. And then Steven Crowder, to his credit, kind of popularized this idea of debating and putting it on. I said, well, why don't I also film these interactions? And so I started to do that around 2018. So it's been about 7 or 8 years now.
I remember when Change My Mind started. I don't remember exactly, where I was or what I was doing, but I remember that time. And those Change My Minds were a really good predecessor to what Charlie was able to do. And Crowder had interesting discussions, had interesting topics, was willing to say things that other people weren't willing to say, but he didn't quite have the rapport with people to really bring them into the movement. For Crowder, is more like, I'm making good content, and Charlie is like, well, this helping out is good content, so we may as well throw it on the internet.
You know, and then 10 kids would show up, and then 20 kids. And we started to put these on the internet, and kind of concurrent and simultaneous to your rise, where you diagnosed what was going on in the West quicker and more accurately than anybody else, especially with young men. We started to see our popularity increase as we started to address some of the underlying problems that young people were facing, but in particular, young men were facing. And then COVID happened. We were basically out of business for, you know, a year, in the sense where we weren't able to do campus activities. Donald Trump was no longer in office, and we had to really kind of rebuild on campus. Come on, man. Basically about 2 years ago. So let's just say the spring of 2023, things really started to change. Where,
yeah, I completely agree, Drew, that not necessarily just the gotcha, but I think it's like, well, this is content. This is to benefit me. And then if it helps people, cool, great. But you know, I think you're spot on that. Charlie really wanted to change what America looks like.
we would do these campus events prior, and we would bring in your traditional conservatives, 300 to 400 people, maybe a couple 100 interested types, maybe 50 liberals, 500 students, call it a day. That's a success. All of a sudden in 2023, we were drawing a different type of person and student. First of all, we were drawing people outside of the campuses that were welders, electricians, and plumbers, and the working men that heard that we were in town, and they just
How'd they hear?
Social media.
Okay.
And so decentralized promotion. And so they would show up. And I saw that. I mean, these were guys that would go up to the question line, and they were not asking about Rousseau, or they were not asking about Jacques Derrida.
Yeah.
They were saying, how do I be a better person? Because I'm expecting a daughter in 6 months.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And all of a sudden, here I am, you know, not.
All right, we've got to help out our boy, Angry Amputee, trying to decide which shirt should he get. We have, of course, the our favorite, the Lutch and Morty South Park, and we also have the where the fuck did he go? Did I miss it? Projection. And you guys know that when somebody up here projecting, projection. I like this one, but that's because it's my face. But they're both cool. I don't know. Up to you. Up to you, guys. Head to the Indian Jesus of well, shit, where is it? Come on. TheIndianJesus.com for your very own official merch. And of course, we got the OG one right here. The OG one here to resurrect the second coming of Common Sense.
In the position where you are nearly as seasoned to give advice to that young man, but he's searching and he's looking for anyone that seems to have an idea of how the world is supposed to work, that is professing a worldview of order and structure and discipline.
Something that he could do.
Yes, and then he was looking to me for advice, and that was a different dynamic. Whereas
shout out to Cellulite Podcast. Welcome to the party.
prior, all the questions the last 8 years before that were, hey, Charlie, what do you think about the tax rate? What do you think about abortion?
Right.
And I still get a lot of that, but it was something different. It was young men especially that were seeking purpose and seeking a destination.
So this is crucially important, this transformation, because one of the things so let's go back to that 60s dynamic, that anti-authoritarian 60s dynamic. No, the role of the left in the 60s was like an entrepreneurial progressive radicalism, let's say. And the stance of the conservative was, well, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater, guys. And that's a pretty good dynamic, because you need a force for change and you need a force that resists that. But
Spork, there was a time when I had a MAGA hat in my well, can I go from here? In my frame. But homie, don't play that shit no more. That does not mean that I regret my vote or I wish Kamala would have won. Come on, man. But conversation for another day. Very, very unhappy.
Guys. And that's a pretty good dynamic, because you need a force for change and you need a force that resists that. But I think what the conservatives did wrong, like profoundly wrong, was that their brakes. This is why they're always dismissed as reactionary. Their brakes, BRAKES, their brakes were fundamentally, they're also moralistic. It was finger wagging. And this is something that was distasteful, let's say, especially about the hypocritical evangelical conservative types.
I agree with that.
Okay, so
A shout out to Angry Amputee, repping the brand, repping the Moral Felon Crew. Thank you so very, very much. I don't get any money from those, so I'm just happy that you guys want them and like them. They're pretty comfy. Pretty comfy. Quamtex didn't follow CK or Fuentes very much, but I can honestly say that Charlie Kirk's conversation really fucking blows Fuentes out of the water.
Bingo.
Yep. Well, and here's the thing, Carl. I am also Team MAGA. My claim is that Trump is no longer MAGA. Trump has outgrown him. Trump has outgrown MAGA. We are MAGA. He is not.
but it was also strategically inappropriate because it's very hard to say to young people who might tilt in the progressive direction because they're a little more revolutionary in spirit, let's say, or also a little more immature, that the reason that to abstain sexually, for example, is because you shouldn't do it. Now that's true, but it's a weak argument. You know, I was talking to my wife this morning about this. We'd been
I've had this in the playlist for a minute. It's from April, and it's a different vibe than what's usually going on. And I was saying in the beginning that I just don't really want to get involved with the Candace stuff. You know, she was on Piers, and you know they were yelling and stuff, and we could have gotten really into that. But I wasn't feeling the vibes, and so JVP is back in the building.
Apart for a few days, and I saw her again yesterday, and I was very happy about that. And she has a podcast. She's trying to
read it again.
Reach out to young women because they're just as or more trouble.
They're in more trouble.
They're just harder to talk to by a lot.
Ladies.
Our discussion centered around the fact that it isn't that you should get married, although you should. It's that there is no alternative that's anywhere near as good by any standard whatsoever, regardless of position of analysis or time length. Anything you do other than that, even though marriage is very difficult. And
what the hell? Yeah, I mean, I am not married, but that is definitely the perspective I have on life. Like that's what I'm here for, is to find and build a family. What is going on?
Every other alternative is far, far worse. And so if you want a pathway forward to what the conservatives support, the conservatives should be offering an invitation. They shouldn't be moralizing. And so you're saying that they shouldn't even be political.
That's the exact inverse of what feminism is. The notion of trying to say, well, men don't always treat women the way that we want to be treated, or rights and this and that and that and that and that. But instead of having an inviting conversation, it's always like, man bad. It's like, well, who wants to fucking listen to that? Except other bitches like that.
At the moment. And I know you're a figure whose political activity is grounded in a religious substrate.
Right.
Like
that's right.
Shapiro's, of course, like that.
Well, I mean, hey, whatever works for you.
Too, and Dennis Prager.
Christianity is my foundation.
Right. And so now you're seeing that these young men who are coming, especially the working class types, they're not so interested in the political. They're probably not even interested in the arguments exactly. They're looking for something else.
That's right. They're looking for direction. They're looking for connection. They're also looking for validation that the way they're thinking and the way they're feeling is directionally correct. That it's it hits
the vibes. It hits the vibes. So I'm just rereading this. I didn't realize you were talking about like he wouldn't be coming back to the world. And hopefully he is doing all right.
Having a direction is correct.
Yeah, exactly. That not meandering through life.
Yeah.
Not having the aimless despair of.
And shout out to Power Beard in the building. Welcome. So the best thing about marriage is you get to have sex. You finally get to have sex. And oh boy, you are going to like it. I don't mean to break any hearts, but my hymen is not intact. Shout out to I8. Welcome, and Skull. Very good to see you guys. Shout out to the Truly Network. We also got Scott in the building. Welcome, guys. Let's dive right back in.
Not meandering through life.
Yeah.
Not having the aimless despair of walking in circles.
Yeah, not castrating yourself so your toxic masculinity vanishes.
Bingo.
And sometimes literally, far too often now, literally.
That literally
Right.
they're chopping off.
Yeah,
parts.
exactly.
And so what we saw in 2023, and again, so I have to wear multiple hats. Part of my hat is a political strategist. Part of my hat is just trying to be a role model for young people. Part of my hat is explaining these ideas to young people. I kind of connected all the dots. I said,
So again, Cold, I disagree, but only because I think we are MAGA. Trump started this, and we have become it. So MAGA died. Just the respect of Trump from MAGA died. Well, should have.
2024 is going to be a rebellion of the men of the West, unlike anything we've ever seen. And I would say this to the experts, and they would dismiss it. They said, no. Because Roe versus Wade got repealed. Remember that either that summer or summer 2022. I can't remember.
Shout out to Equality. My hymen is intact because vagina. Speaking of which, Equality said the sex stops after marriage. Wah, wah, wah. Well, then you married the wrong chick.
It might have been, I think it might, irrelevant. The point being is that Roe versus Wade was supposed to be the most important political issue of 2024, and that women were going to rise up in major numbers. I said, first of all, that might be true on one side of the sex spectrum. On the other side, or binary, the other side, there's something happening with men that no one is talking about, no one wants to acknowledge, no one wants to admit. And so separately, the Trump team, to their credit, believed in it and actually ran an explicitly masculine campaign going on podcasts like Joe Rogan and Theo Von. And so they were very much embracing this, to their credit. But separately, we must diagnose, why is this happening? And the education system, as you've astutely pointed out many times, is hyper feminine. There's no place for young men, especially young white men of a Christian
I think it's
persuasion.
1 in 4 boys is now given an ADHD diagnosis. It's something.
And even
What?
the New York Times has said this is for parents, not for
1 in 4? Holy shit, that's insane. I remember when I was younger, like it was definitely I graduated high school in 2008, and like there was definitely a lot of people on these types of medications, but like 1 in 4, that is insane. Shout out to Boggs. Welcome to the party. Welcome to the party. Said I voted no on the poll and click the like button anyways. There you go. Shout out to James. Welcome. Said everyone needs to say a prayer for Dr. Peterson. He's been in the ICU for the last 6 months. Oh damn, it's like serious. He just recently made it home, but he is not doing well. Well, let's give a dilly to Dr. Peterson. Doesn't work the same without my mug, but welcome to the party.
4 boys is now given an ADHD diagnosis. Right. It's something.
And even the New York Times has said this is for parents, not for kids.
Yeah.
Meaning there's no medicinal reason for this to happen, according to the New York Times.
Yeah, right. So things have gone particularly sideways when the
I
New York
encourage people
Times
to read this cover story. It was unbelievable. Where they were.
Wait, what's so meaning? Like anybody who says I have ADHD, they automatically get the med. Is that what you mean? Because that's bad.
Basically saying after this major study that like 1% of the kids actually do need ADHD medication that are completely out of control. But almost like 90 to 95% are just because the parents don't want to have an unruly kid around.
Yeah, and if that's the New York Times diagnosis, then you can also be absolutely 100% certain that they underplay the role of the educational establishment in setting up the circumstances so that parents are likely to draw that conclusion. Right. I mean, with all this trans butchery nightmare, my profession, particularly the social work end of it, but my real psychologists, let's say, were also stunningly craven in their unwillingness to resist this.
Shout out to Vinny. Said Charlie will never die. He's got thousands of hours of content. Absolutely. And hey, I mean, I don't know much about, behind the scenes at TPUSA, but they seem to be doing pretty all right, given the circumstances. Welcome to the party.
Mantra was to parents, well, would you rather have a live trans child or a dead child? Which there was never a shred of evidence for that.
It's one of the most evil things that has happened.
And I think now we all know about the desistance rates and the fact that most kids who are experiencing this gender confusion bullshit, 90% of them end up just normal and or gay. Like, depending on how you feel about gay. But, there was a version of gay that was not that big of a deal for a long time. Pride's been out of hand for a while, but it was really the transes and specifically the kids. Leave the children alone.
It's unbelievable. The people who promoted that should be imprisoned.
I agree.
It's absolutely
and it's
brutal.
widespread, and it's still in the fibers of the pediatric community.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, and Morgoth's Hammer saying the many of the boys in school get drugged up or medicated for being energetic and not as submissive as the girls, as we were talking about earlier. That it is a factory for factory workers.
It really is.
For sure. Well, the Supreme Court of the UK may have broken the back of that movement a week ago.
Remarkably.
That was unbelievable. That was one of the most... Now and then the Brits, God love them, do something quite radical
like
in the
Cass
right
report,
direction.
Right?
Well, Brexit was a good example of that.
Oh, that's interesting.
They put through that free speech legislation that the Labour Party tried to rescind that has actually reshaped the universities to some substantial degree. That was in part a consequence of me being disinvited from Cambridge, which had a long-term consequence that the disinviters hadn't really reckoned on, because a whole group of professors at Cambridge got together and decided that they were going to change the policies at Cambridge, which they did in a historic vote, and then they changed the policies at the national level.
Yeah, and how's that been working out?
And the repercussions of that haven't stopped yet. But so this terrible demoralization, right? So, all right, now you're being called. You're advertising on social media. Let's go back and tell this whole story. So, because I'm very curious about it. So you had an intuition that you could go to campuses. Okay, so tell me where'd that idea come from? Do you think?
Well, I never went to college.
Well, but didn't okay? Maybe I missed a piece of this. But didn't they already talk about this when they were talking about Crowder? And he's like, well, I started young with the cookies, and then I saw Crowder doing it, and then I did it. But we got the most viewed moment coming up. So
go to campuses. Okay, so tell me where'd that idea come from? Do you think?
Well, I never went to college, first of all, which is...
Right, you've been to many colleges.
I've been to more colleges than most people. You might have me beat, but I've been to well over 200 campuses across the country.
No, you've got me beat.
Yeah, I mean, almost every college. You can imagine. I've either given a lecture, a speech, or started a chapter there.
Yeah. So my daughter doesn't have a university degree, so she started the university. So that's very
good.
comical.
Exactly.
But this is good. Okay, so that means you do have a university education. You just got it a very different way.
That's right.
Okay, so you decided.
Yep.
That's interesting too, because it's like I asked you what your motivation for doing this was, and the first thing you said was that you didn't have a degree. So that's very interesting. So what, were you also curious about going to campuses? Like,
yes, and that's really a great point. So just as a little background, I wanted to go to West Point. I didn't get in. I told my parents I would take a gap year to kind of figure this out, because I saw some momentum of a local political group that was out of the cookie group, by the way.
Okay.
That kind of kept growing. I said, I want to keep this going and play this out, see where this can be.
This was after.
Yeah, and I like, obviously, right? Obviously, if you're on the pharmaceutical grade meth as a child, then your natural rhythms, your circadian rhythm, and just the routines of how your body is supposed to work aren't going to work like that. Like, it goes like, I like to sleep. Crazy idea. 1 in 4 boys. 1 in 4 boys. That is crazy.
By the way,
Okay.
That kind of kept growing. I said, I want to keep this going and play this out, see where this can be.
This was after high school, after high school.
Yeah, that's correct. That was the summer I graduated high school.
Okay.
A really amazing mentor by the name of Bill Montgomery, may he rest in peace, was the only guy ever. He said, Charlie, you shouldn't go to college. I was like, that's the most radical thing someone could say. So that idea was planted in my head. And I said, okay, I'll just take a gap year. I'll kind of figure things out.
Why did he tell you that?
He thought... in his own words, he sensed an entrepreneurial gift and skill that I had.
Right.
And a drive. He was a kind of an entrepreneur himself.
Okay, so he could see the entrepreneurial part of you, and he didn't think that would work well in college.
Yeah, and he said, you have to go create. Not just go.
Oh, good. Oh, that was
what he said.
I see.
Well, I mean, best advice to be able to see somebody who clearly has the potential to be something or someone big, and that not only is college not the right direction, but that there is another direction. Because we talk all the time about what the fuck, that college is a scam, And unless you're going to be a doctor or whatever, then you don't really need it. Especially like Andrew's saying that MIT has all their lectures and stuff free. Where was I just going with that? What did he just say?
He didn't think that would work well in college.
Yeah, and he said you have to go create.
Oh yeah. But and being able to see that, like, what a huge advantage in progressing your life. So many of I'll just say so many of us who went to college thinking that this is just what you do after high school. It took a long time to really kind of figure out what it is that I'm supposed to be doing here. What is it that I'm even good at? A shout out to Dane in the building. Welcome to the party. Yeah, it does that all the time, but I appreciate the effort. Shout out to Connie. College is definitely indoctrination. Yep. Adderall is the Ozempic of the 2000s. People started taking it for weight loss. Yeah, but I think that like before that, there was always like weight loss pills and stuff that were essentially uppers. I don't know how I wouldn't be able to tell you the difference between taking Adderall and taking one of those diet pills, but can't be that much different. Yes, sir. If anybody would like to donate, you can hit me up on Venmo at TheIndianJesus, and CashApp just $TheIndianJesus. If you guys do send something, please let me know in the chat because I would hate to miss it, and the notifications don't always come through. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so he could see the entrepreneurial part of you, and he didn't think that would work well in college.
Yeah, and he said you have to go create. Not just go,
oh, good. Oh, that was
what he said.
I see. Okay.
You have to go build. He said you have something in you. You have a drive. You have a passion. You have a relentless kind of spirit. And he says you shouldn't go to college. And that was the most radical thing that a suburban kid in Chicago could hear because everyone would go to college.
Of course.
It's a mark of failure not to go to college.
Yeah,
and so
that's exactly how it was perceived in my circles in terms of like not just the people I went to high school with, but their parents, other community. Like that was what you do. There wasn't really a choice. If you weren't going to college, then you weren't doing anything. Shout out to Blueberry Street. Welcome to the party. Shout out to Speak Easy. Oh, sub, thank you so very, very much. Welcome to the party. Well, technically, I am West Indian in the sense of the Caribbean, but my ancestors are actual that Indians. Welcome to the party.
Could hear because everyone would go to college.
Of course.
It's a mark of failure not to go to college.
Yeah,
and so not getting into West Point was very demoralizing. However, it was the greatest gift ever from the Lord because I took the gap year. And to your credit, which is no one's ever put this together, all my friends were in college. So I would start visiting my friends in colleges. So you think about it, because I would go to high school. I would graduate high school. I still am friends with all my high school friends. So I'd go to University of Iowa, University of Illinois to go visit them, Northwestern. And I realized as I was trying to get this political thing off the ground, this is where it all stemmed from. And I was trying to put pieces together that the academy was where the fight needed
definitely
to go towards. Yeah. And simultaneously, as I was trying to find funding and trying to get donors behind our effort, something that almost every wealthy person that I would encounter is they had a soft spot and a interest in trying to invest in college campuses, especially conservative leaning.
You gotta get them young. You gotta get them young.
And business types in America. I think about 2012.
That's turned around to bite them pretty damn hard.
Oh yeah, but it would get their attention, right? So here I would be at a cocktail party.
A shout out to Dane with the $10 Venmo. My goodness, thank you so very, very much. And of course, you guys know every donation comes with a treat for the Overlord, and he can get a special treat if we hit that goal. Thank you so very, very much, sir. And I believe that makes you the new sponsor of the stream.
That's turned around to bite them pretty damn hard.
Oh yeah, but it would get their attention, right? So here I would be at a cocktail party and I'd be 18, 19 years old trying to get funding, trying to get someone's attention. They say, okay, what do you do? I said, well, I'm trying to bring conservatism to college campuses. Oh, really? And they would be sincere. They would lean in.
Right.
They'd say, well, what about my alma mater? Have you spoke there? And so,
because they're all fucking boomers and they don't understand how do we reach these kids?
Campuses. Oh, really? And they would be sincere. They would lean in.
Right.
They'd say, well, what about my alma mater? Have you spoke there? And so I'd have a little connection. I'd say, well, maybe I could visit there if we have a little bit of money. And so it helped. So I had interest from the donor community.
Right. So you could see that there was an opening there, a door that was open.
And I had no idea how big that opening was. And the more that I learned, some of these donors, as you would say, they'd give hundreds of millions of dollars to these schools.
Yeah, right.
And so they had a lot of vested interest. They were very curious about a young guy that wants to go shake up these campuses. Because remember, that's when woke was really starting to come up.
Yeah.
13, 14, 15, we saw it bubble up.
For sure.
15 was, I think, the Pearl Harbor moment. It was Michael Brown, Ferguson, Missouri, hands up, don't shoot. That's where woke started to present itself in.
Oh, you'll have to tell me why you think that event was.
At least.
Before we go into that, Blueberry's talking about Gen X. We're pressured to be overachievers. And it's, I had a video go semi-viral where we were looking at 3 different TikToks. And the first one that we saw was just some Zoomer being like, oh my God, Gen X is the worst generation ever. And so we were all kind of, I'm a millennial. We were just kind of laughing, stupid little kid, whatever. Then we go to some other dude who is saying like, yeah, I'm Gen X. And when it comes to this and that and that and that, politics and culture, we didn't really change shit. And I was starting to think about like, okay, what somebody said earlier, all the founding fathers were in their 20s and maybe 30s. Well, actually, I think Benjamin Franklin was older. But point being, I didn't understand why I had this attitude of like, where y'all at? Why are the boomers still in charge? But a lot of people educated me about the, just demographics. And there's just not as many Gen Xers as there are boomers. And because of the fact that boomers had so much control over money and jobs and housing and all that stuff, that you just kind of got brushed to the side. Latchkey kids.
Dude, that's where woke started to present itself in.
Oh, you'll have to tell me why you think that event was.
At least from because I think at the top of all woke elements, race was the primary.
Crossing my fingers for you, brother. Crossing my fingers for you.
Let's just say the primary fencing.
Yeah.
Woke.
Oh, you'll have to tell me why you think that event was.
At least from because I think at the top of all woke elements, race was the primary. Let's just say the primary fencing.
Yeah, it's the division point.
Correct. And so in
and it's not are you this or that or that or that or that, is are you white or are you a good person?
2015, when Ferguson, Missouri, the scam of hands up, don't shoot with Michael Brown, Black Lives Matter was born out of Ferguson, Missouri, actually on a college campus at University of Missouri in Columbia, Missouri. And that spread like wildfire through, of course, a lot of Democrat operatives and money being spent. Remember how long we spent on that news cycle of America's racist because of Michael Brown, and all the CNN commentators famously said, hands up and don't shoot. And we spent more time on race obsession.
Think about how much damage. Think about how much damage that one phrase did. Hands up, don't shoot. 4 words, and the bedrock of all our progress. I always like to say that I don't think that race relations were as bad as excuse me. I don't believe that race relations are as good as they ever could have been ever when we were in the colorblindness phase in the 90s. But it's gone down since then. So let's at least get back to being colorblind. And then we can understand, like, yeah, okay, if you live a life as a white person from here, or a black person from there, or this or that, then we can get more into that. But understanding the colorblindness allows us to see each other as individuals and breaks the inherent division of just these groups without having to relinquish the identity of that group. Back to colorblindness. Let's do it.
Commentators famously said, hands up and don't shoot. And we spent more time on race obsession in the last 2 years of Obama's presidency than the last 4 or 5 years prior. Yeah. And that's because
that's a hallmark of the danger of allowing race to be an issue in the presidency to begin with.
Exactly. But an underappreciated element here is Eric Holder was setting the table.
Guys, we almost had Kamala Harris as the president of the United States. Why? Because it was a black woman.
For that. with very loyal people in the Department of Justice that believed that police were inherently racist.
Right.
They were
What exactly are you asking here? Color without culture? I don't think so. But I just, if you could clarify a little bit.
launching investigations into very successful police departments trying to find police brutality and racial bias. And so the table was set, and that was the mini George Floyd moment of the beginning
well,
of
and psychologists played a role in that in a major way too, because you had Banaji and her crowd with the what do they call that? The implicit association test, forcing the idea of implicit bias. And social psychology is a very corrupt discipline, and it has been maybe from its onset. And
hold on, Trump is talking right now. Let's see what we got. Hold on. Let's see. Reload. Live. I don't see no. Here we go. All right. So what we will do then is keep an eye on. Oh, it's done. Was that the whole? Okay. So let's see what this is. Shout out to Noise Like for keeping us focused. Welcome to the party.
Good evening, America. 11 months ago, I inherited a mess, and I'm fixing it. When I took office, inflation was the worst in 48 years, and some would say in the history of our country, which caused prices to be higher than ever before, making life unaffordable for millions and millions of Americans. This happened during a Democrat administration, and it's when we first began hearing the word affordability. Our border was open, and because of this, our country was being invaded by an army of 25 million people, many who came from prisons and jails, mental institutions, and insane asylums. They were drug dealers, gang members, and even 11,888 murderers, more than 50% of whom killed more than one person. This is what the Biden administration allowed to happen to our country, and it can never be allowed to happen again. We had men playing in women's sports.
So Blueberry Street said, color without culture. And I said, don't think so. Color doesn't come without culture. It's more of a culture class versus the actual race then. Yeah, exactly. And again, there doesn't need to be this I don't even know what you call it, but this notion of, well, no, we're all just people. We're all just humans. Like, there's a reason why we have that tribe mentality. But there are different levels. There's concentric circles of your tribe. You have your family, your immediate family, then your extended family, then your neighborhood, or you're part of a community or something, and it goes out and out and out. And they're not necessarily mutually exclusive. And so we can have an understanding that Black people live a different type of experience than white people do, without having to turn that into oppression and all that shit. Just understanding it. Nope. I was too what was the word? Lazy is the wrong word. Stubborn. I was too stubborn. StreamYard's just too easy, so I never learned how to use OBS. Shout out to StreamYard. Yeah, man, we definitely wouldn't be having these Christmas trees if Biden was there. What do you think it would be if we had Kamala in there? And we're like, let's do Kwanzaa stuff. All right, back to 47.
Be allowed to happen again. We had men playing in women's sports, transgender for everybody, crime at record levels, law enforcement, and words such as that just absolutely forbidden.
Words such as
we had the worst trade deals ever made, and our country was laughed at from all over the world. But they're not laughing anymore. Over the past 11 months, we have brought more positive change to Washington than any administration in American history. There's never been anything like it, and I think most would agree. I was elected in a landslide, winning the popular vote and all 7 swing states and everything else, with a mandate to take on a sick and corrupt system that really just took the wealth from people and crushed the dreams of the American people. For the last 4 years, the United States was ruled by politicians who fought only for insiders, illegal aliens, career criminals, corporate lobbyists, prisoners, terrorists, and above all, foreign nations, which took advantage of us at levels never seen before. They flooded your cities and towns with illegal aliens. They decimated your hard-earned savings. They indoctrinated your children with hate for America. They just released a level of violent felons that we had never seen to prey on innocent. They caused war. They caused mayhem. They caused a horrible situation all over the globe. But now you have a president who fights for the law-abiding, hardworking people of our country, the ones who make this nation run, who make this nation work.
Yeah, wasn't his first line, "Good evening, American"? Like, hey, let's not pull a Biden here.
And after just 1 year, we have achieved more than anyone could have imagined. Starting on day one, I took immediate action to stop the invasion of our southern border. For the past 7 months, 0 illegal aliens have been allowed into our country, a feat which everyone said was absolutely impossible.
Now, again, I love that. I love that. I wish we were a little bit closer to what he actually ran on and saying, oh, we're going to start with the worst of the worst. That's what I thought we were doing. And then some girl asked her school, not even the government. Some girl had a student visa, asked her school to stop giving money to Israel. Deported. Come on.
Into our country, a feat which everyone said was absolutely impossible. Do you remember when Joe Biden said that he needed Congress to pass legislation to help close the border? He was always blaming Congress and everyone else. As it turned out, we didn't need legislation. We just needed a new president. We inherited the worst border anywhere in the world. And
that is true. He doesn't like that teleprompter. He doesn't like the teleprompter.
We quickly turned it into the strongest border in the history of our country. In other words, in a few short months, we went from worst to best. We're deporting criminals, restoring safety to our most dangerous cities. Just take a look at Washington, D.C. It's at levels of safety that we've never seen before.
I was watching, I forget who it was, but somebody was doing just kind of like a man on the street walking around video, talking to specifically black people, just people in general in DC. And of course, all the like the climate girl that we saw before, who she was like, "Oh, I used to love Greta," and then I realized this is a privileged position. I think it's the same thing.
It's at levels of safety that we've never seen before, and they decimated the bloodthirsty foreign drug cartels. We did that all by ourselves with our people, and we're so proud of it because they were poisoning and destroying our population. Drugs brought in by ocean and by sea are now down 94%. We have broken the grip of sinister woke radicals in our schools, and control over those schools is back now in the hands of our great and loving states where education belongs. After rebuilding the United States military in my first term, and with the addition we are adding right now, we have the most powerful military anywhere in the world, and it's not even close. I've restored American strength, settled 8 wars in 10 months, destroyed the Iran nuclear threat, and ended the war in Gaza, bringing for the first time in 3,000 years peace to the Middle East, and secured the release of the hostages, both living and dead. Here at home, we're bringing our economy back from the brink of ruin. The last administration and their allies in Congress looted our treasury for trillions of dollars, driving up prices and everything at levels never seen before. I am bringing those high prices down and bringing them down very fast. Let's look at the facts. Under the Biden administration, car prices rose 22%, and in many states, 30% or more. Gasoline rose 30 to 50%. Hotel rates rose 37%. Airfares rose 31%. Now, under our leadership, they are all coming down and coming down fast. Democrat politicians also sent the cost of groceries soaring, but we are solving that too. The price of a Thanksgiving turkey was down 33% compared to the Biden last year.
The thing is, though, when they talk, they use the Thanksgiving turkey because they can kind of mess with that. And well, this year, because the economy is good, then we have this much goodness, but let's just knock off some more money on the turkeys.
The price of eggs is down 82% since March, and everything else is falling rapidly. And it's not done yet, but boy, are we making progress. Nobody can believe what's going on. Here are just some of the efforts that we have underway. You will see in your wallets and bank accounts in the new year. After years of record-setting falling incomes, our policies are boosting take-home pay at a historic pace. Under Biden, real wages plummeted by $3,000. Under Trump, the typical factory worker has seen a wage increase of $1,300. For construction workers, it's $1,800. For miners, we're bringing back clean, beautiful coal. It's $3,300. And for the first time in years, wages are rising much faster than inflation. Remember that. The wages, just look at it. Wages are going up much faster than inflation.
That's your jobs things, box. That's jobs. That's jobs. Liberty said Republicans are so dumb when it comes to economics. It's all so as bad as the left. Obviously, communists are the worst. Fair enough.
How big is that? Very importantly, there are more people working today than at any time in American history, and 100% of all jobs created since I took office have been in the private sector. Think of that. 100% of all jobs have been in the private sector rather than government, which is the only way to make a country powerful and great. This historic trend will continue. Already, I've secured a record-breaking $18 trillion of investment into the United States, which means jobs, wage increases, growth, factory openings, and far greater national security. Much of this success has been accomplished by tariffs. My favorite word, tariffs, which for many decades have been used successfully by other countries against us, but not anymore. Companies know that if they build in America, there are no tariffs. And that's why they're coming home to the USA in record numbers. They're building factories and plants.
That was always the point, is to bring back manufacturing to the country on for the long term. No, you got to pay the tariffs. No shit.
USA in record numbers. They're building factories and plants at levels we haven't seen. AI, automobiles. We're doing what nobody thought was even possible, not even remotely possible. There has never, frankly, been anything like it.
Put a 1 in the chat if you are pro AI, and put a 2 if you hate AI.
1 year ago, our country was dead. We were absolutely dead. Our country was ready to fail, totally failed. Now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. And that's said by every single leader that I've spoken to over the last 5 months. Next year, you will also see the results of the largest tax cuts in American history that were really accomplished through our great, big, beautiful bill, perhaps the most sweeping legislation ever passed in Congress. We wrapped 12 different bills up into one beautiful bill. That includes no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. Under these,
of course, I don't work in a restaurant anymore, so I don't get as much help from the no tax on tips as I would have. But hey, any dissolution of taxes is good.
Cuts, many families will be saving between $11,000 and $20,000 a year. And next spring is projected to be the largest tax refund season of all time. Because of tariffs, along with the just passed One Big Beautiful Bill, tonight I am also proud to announce that
you might need AI to do that. All right, what are you announcing?
One Big Beautiful Bill. Tonight I am also proud to announce that more than 1,450,000, think of this, 1,450,000 military service members will receive a special, we call Warrior Dividend before Christmas, a Warrior Dividend. In honor of our nation's founding in 1776, we are sending every soldier $1,776.
What do we think of that? Like, obviously, there is the notion that I want our troops to be respected and blah, 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 all of that stuff. But is this, I don't know. Because the other thing about the military is, shout out to Caleb Hammer, who actually has gotten himself in a little bit of trouble, but has red pilled a lot of people on why millennials and Zoomers are so broke. And of course, there's a lot of bullshit with the economy and blah 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 blah. But there's also a problem with bad spending. And what the fuck was I just going to say? Oh, yeah. And he was like, we've never had a veteran on the show who wasn't on military benefits, even if they, just have like a, I forget exactly the example he used, but it was like, I have anxiety, so I can't work at all ever. It's like, what? If you guys are on the vertical stream, you can just double tap the screen and that will like the video. Thank you so much. I am the Indian Jesus here to resurrect the second coming of Common Sense, live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes whenever I feel like it. Welcome to the party.
Soldier, $1,776. Think of that. And the checks are already on the way. Nobody understood that one until about 30 minutes ago. We made a lot more money than anybody thought because of tariffs, and the bill helped us along. Nobody deserves it more than our military. And I say congratulations to everybody. And by the way, we now have record enlistment in our military. And last year, we had among the worst recruitment numbers in our military's history. What a difference a year makes. In addition, I'm doing what no politician of either party has ever done, standing up to the special interest to dramatically reduce the price of prescription drugs. I negotiated directly with the drug companies and foreign nations, which were taking advantage of our country for many decades, to slash prices on drugs and pharmaceuticals by as much as 400, 500, and even 600%. In other words, your drug costs will be plummeting downward. And I used the threat of tariffs to get foreign countries who would never have done it to pay the cost of this giant dollar reduction.
Yeah, just saying, gee, is that Michiganese for did you eat? Oh, man, we know that Bill Burr can bloviate on politics, but fuck you if you don't think he's funny in general. And he had, he's from Boston, and he was talking about one time where he went, obviously L.A. Liberal type dude. He went back east to Boston, and he's lost the accent so much that someone was saying to him this thing, and he couldn't understand. They kept saying, Jubove? Like, what? Huh? Jubove. Dill, Jubove? Who knows what the fuck I just said? Put it in the chat, and you get a special prize.
Who would never have done it to pay the cost of this giant dollar reduction. They stopped ripping us off, and it began as of 4 days ago.
So Dane said this is pandering to the military. It's buying votes. That implies that he doesn't feel comfortable with where he is in terms of the vote. And obviously we have to think about the midterms. Would there be something specific with the military that would want to, or would not want to vote MAGA? What, to include veterinarians? There you go. Guamtech said tax automation and start a new UBI system of people who can't work. What is another solution to other people losing their jobs on a mass scale? I think I follow your logic and I agree, but I think it's just the tipping point of where there's just too much automation and not enough jobs. I mean, we already don't have enough jobs, but there's jobs, just not the jobs that people want. But when those jobs literally don't exist, then I don't know if you're wrong, but I kind of feel like that's a little bit further away than we talk about it. We've been talking about, the next 5 to 10 years, all the truck drivers are going to be out of work. They've been saying that for a minute. And I do think that, truckers are one of the first people that have to worry about this. But, not anytime soon. Point being, I think saying, okay, this is how we solve this problem that we haven't encountered yet is not the best way to go about it. So, this is a good starting point of okay, in the way that I'm perceiving what I think is going to happen, but we have to constantly be, as this stuff actually rolls out, is that actually the case? Do we actually need this? So Caleb Hammer, if you guys don't know, is the financial audit. The chubby dude, glasses, curly hair, tells everybody, "Oh, taquitos." So he's gay, and he was found in a Discord being weird with underage boys. So I mean, we got to see how that plays out, but yikes. Trying to get more enlisted. We just said we just have the biggest military that we need. Which is it? Shout out to 86 Fake News. Welcome, and thank you so very, very much. Did I miss anything else here? Again, agreed. But the notion that because automation is coming, that the entire population will starve, I don't think that is necessarily the case. Yeah. Oh yeah. You couldn't tell? He does. I have seen clips when all this stuff came out. I think in the last couple of days, there was a clip where like he pretends to be straight because he knows that most of his audience is more right leaning, but he's easily and obviously gay. All right. Diving back in.
Ripping us off, and it began as of 4 days ago. There has never been anything like this in the history of our country. Drugs have only gone up, but now they'll be going down by numbers never conceived possible. It's called Most Favored Nation, and no president has ever had the courage or ability to get this done until now. The first of these unprecedented price reductions will be available starting in January through a new website, TrumpRx.gov. And these big price cuts will greatly
that again, because he knows that he has his audience has a right leaning tilt, so he hides that. But definitely gay. Yep, he does get emotional like a woman. You know the gays.
TrumpRx.gov. And these big price cuts will greatly reduce the cost of health care. I'm also taking on the gigantic health insurance companies that have gotten rich on billions of dollars of money that should go directly to the people. The money should go to the people.
What video? What are you talking about? Liberty said taxes just raise prices. Regulation will make it so you can't benefit from new tech, and UBI is just going to lead to CBDCs or central bank digital currencies. Remember when they wanted to dictate food purchases for SNAP? You want that? I mean, in the case of SNAP, yeah, but not as a basic tenet of how everybody works. Like, no, I don't want the government telling me that what I can do with my own money. But in terms of SNAP, like, I don't want the government to be giving out money to people and they could just use it however the fuck they want.
Dollars of money that should go directly to the people. The money should go to the people. That's you. So they can buy their own health insurance, which will give far better benefits at much lower cost. It will be far better health insurance. The current Unaffordable Care Act was created.
Hit me up. Let's go.
Created to make insurance companies rich. It was bad health care at much too high a cost. And you see that now in the steep increase in premiums being demanded by the Democrats, and they are demanding those increases, and it's their fault. It is not the Republicans' fault. It's the Democrats' fault. It's the Unaffordable Care Act, and everybody knew it. Again, I want the money to go directly to the people so you can buy your own health care. You'll get much better health care at a much lower price. The only losers will be insurance companies that have gotten rich in the Democrat Party, which is totally controlled by those same insurance companies. They will not be happy, but that's okay with me because you, the people, are finally going to be getting great health care at a lower cost. Another major.
Oh, that's right. So I want SNAP to be more like WIC, so there's more control from the government, but that's a different thing because that is the government's money, aka our money, versus with a CBDC, then they're they can lock you out from spending your own money. So those are two different situations. Not saying that I think you're wrong about the CBDCs, but why SNAP is not a good example for that.
People are finally going to be getting great health care at a lower cost. Another major focus is the cost of energy. For years, the radical left Democrats exploited the green energy scam as an excuse to funnel many billions of dollars into their own massive slush funds as their energy restrictions drastically drove up prices, and they drove them up at record levels.
You're right. You're right. Okay. So so if I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that.
Stupid.
Okay, then you're right. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Whoopsies. Forgot I had that button there.
Restrictions drastically drove up prices, and they drove them up at record levels. Electricity costs surged 30 to 100% under Biden, and the typical family lost $5,000 to $10,000 in higher energy costs. Think of that, $5,000 to $10,000 you lost. On day one, I declared a national energy emergency. Gasoline is now under $2.50 a gallon in much of the country.
Yep.
In some
How much? What did you guys pay for gas the last time you went? Or not? How much did you? Like, how much was it? Central Jersey usually has some of the best gas prices in the country. Not the best, but some of the best. Like up there. And I think I saw 260 something. I think I saw 260 something. What is gas around y'all?
states now under $2.50 a gallon, and in much of the country, in some.
Damn, that is California. Holy shit. Welcome to the party. That gave me a little jump scare. And you said gas is $2.39 in Ohio. So California loses again. Oh, California! We want to help you. They just don't want it. 250 range. Oh man. A shout out to Val. Surviving in California.
Is now under $2.50 a gallon, and in much of the country, in some states, it, by the way, just hit $1.99 a gallon.
Because I was going to say $2.39. It was definitely something 9. But I did originally want to say $2.39, but he said $2.50. It was one of those. But yeah, it's looking good. I remember the highest it ever got. I was in high school. It was that gas crisis, and gas was just higher than it is now. And I remember I was like, "Here we go. Where are we?" And it's going up. We're past $2.50. Oh, we're past $3 a gallon. Oh, we're past $3.50 a gallon. When are we gonna get to $4? And I'm not saying that there never was $4 gas in my area, but I'm pretty sure that $3.86 is the highest I ever actually saw. But yeah, it's almost like I live here. $2.99 in New York. Yep. It's doing well. Drew said $3.15 in Chicago, which for Chicago is pretty historically low. And I think in general, the urban areas, like the cities, are going to have higher gas prices. Is that a real thing, or did I just make that up? Hey, shout out to Boggs with a $5 make you holla. Thank you so much. And of course, every donation comes with a treat for the Overlord. Thank you, sir. Said California can only get gas it itself refines. They made a monopoly. And we all love playing Monopoly, right? Because that's such a fun way to connect with your family members. Yikes. Thank you, sir.
States, it, by the way, just hit $1.99 a gallon. And within the next 12 months, we will have opened 1,600 new electrical generating plants, a record, and it's a record that won't be beaten by practically, I would say, by anybody, or certainly not very soon. Prices on electricity and everything else will fall dramatically. The Democrat inflation disaster, again, the worst in the history of our country, also robbed millions of Americans of home ownership and indeed the American dream. The yearly cost of a typical new mortgage increased by $15,000 under Democrat rule. In
Box, there you go. There's your housing.
11 months, we've already gotten that annual cost down by $3,000, and it's coming down a lot lower. Wait till you see.
You're the second person to say this. I would not be surprised Is that what you mean? I do have it sped up to 1.2 just because he's doing the speech thing. We can understand that. But did you mean that, or did you mean the phrasing and the wording? I don't know. Drew said, but the cigarette prices. What are you gonna do about the cigarette prices? Well, I hate to say it, but taxing cigarettes worked in one generation. Gone. Not entirely, obviously, but I remember the shift. When I was in high school, smoking was so cool. Then everybody kind of smoked in college, and it was just whatever. It was the thing you do, especially like when you're drinking, you're at parties and whatever. And then once I graduated high school, or once I graduated college, rather, I quit because I just I was never a smoker like that, which is why it's so fucking stupid that I started this. Yeah. But yeah, it just, you could see that all my friends that smoked, they would have issues with women. Oh, you smell like smoke, and it worked. So I roll my own. Well, yeah, that's the way to go. You got to get the Bugler Blue, right? I don't think that is. I think that's the one. Feline Gaiman said, I don't think that that's a real speech. They do that shit. I saw a whole stream of a fake speech on loop for 12 straight hours. So we have options. Is it not actually real at all? Like it's a completely AI generated video? Is it something that was recorded before? And I don't see anything on I don't see anything actually in the frame that would give us anything about timing. Or what exactly are we talking about? Give me the juicy conspiracies.
Cost down by $3,000, and it's coming down a lot lower. Wait till you see, the numbers are going to be shocking. And I'll soon announce our next chairman of the Federal Reserve, someone who believes in lower interest rates by a lot, and mortgage payments will be coming down even further early the new year. And you will see this in the new year. I will announce some of the most aggressive housing reform plans in American history.
Because the first thing he said was whatever the greeting, good evening, or whatever, hello, whatever it was. He said, good evening, American. Like, okay, this is a little flub. No, not a big deal, but it has been just off. I don't know. Dan, you already asked me that, and I already said no.
Some of the most aggressive housing reform plans in American history. A major factor in driving up housing costs was the colossal border invasion. We have never been invaded. This is the worst thing that, frankly, in my opinion, the worst thing that the Biden administration did to our country is the invasion at the border. The last administration and their allies in Congress brought in millions and millions of migrants and gave them taxpayer-funded housing while your rent and housing costs skyrocketed. Over 60% of growth in the rental market came from foreign migrants. At the same time, illegal aliens stole American jobs and flooded emergency rooms, getting free health care and education paid for by you, the American taxpayer. They also increased the cost of law enforcement by numbers so high that they are not even to be mentioned.
But if it's just the mouth, then that means that the rest of his face matching what his mouth is saying, what we're hearing, then that means that must have been either generated or he actually said these words. Because the rest of the rest of his facial expressions, the way his shoulders are, all of that stuff. So if you're saying it's just the mouth, then I guess theoretically we could say that there was a speech that Trump was going to give tonight, but what they did was, take the speech and then change the message entirely so that it just doesn't match what he is saying. But I don't know. I think it's just a little off. And then again, somebody else was saying how he just doesn't like the teleprompter. Maybe he's just not good at reading.
Enforcement by numbers so high that they are not even to be mentioned. For the first time in 50 years, we are now seeing reverse migration as migrants go back home, leaving more housing and more jobs for Americans. In the year before my election, all net creation of jobs was going to foreign migrants. Since I took office, 100% of all net job creation has gone to American-born citizens. 100%. In the end, government either serves the productive, patriotic, hardworking American citizen, or it serves those who break the laws, cheat the system, and seek power and profit at the expense of our nation. Look at Minnesota, where Somalians have taken over the economics of the state and have stolen billions and billions of dollars from Minnesota and indeed from the United States of America. We're going to put an end to it. For so long as before my election, the vast majority of good and decent Americans were forced to watch as corrupt politicians plundered the halls of power, exploited our taxpayers, and pillaged every system that makes civilized society function. But not anymore, and you see that every day, not anymore. We're putting America first, and we are making America great again. Very simple.
Let's go.
We are making America great again. Tonight, after 11 months, our border is secure. Inflation has stopped. Wages are up. Prices are down. Our nation is strong. America is respected, and our country is back, stronger than ever before. We're poised for an economic boom, the likes of which the world has never seen.
Sure
Soon
hope
we
so.
will host the World Cup and the Olympics, both of which I got. But most importantly, we will celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. There could be no more fitting tribute to this epic milestone than to complete the comeback of America that began just 1 year ago. When the world looks at us next year, let them see a nation that is loyal to its citizens, faithful to its workers, confident to its identity, certain to its destiny, and the envy of the entire globe. We are respected again.
Agree or disagree, guys? Everybody's laughing in America since Trump. I don't know about that. I don't think so.
Like we have never been respected
They
before.
might still be laughing because of Biden. That might be what you're talking about.
To each and every one of you, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. God bless you all.
All right. That is 47, your American president. Decent speech in terms of content. Nothing that makes me, excited. Like, okay, yeah, not really there, but that's my big-brained analysis. All right, diving back into Jordan Peterson and Charlie Kirk.
Of implicit bias, and social psychology is a very corrupt discipline, and it has been maybe from its onset. And it's stacked from top to bottom with careerists. And it was social psychologists, for example, who denied that there was any such thing as left-wing authoritarianism until 2017.
God damn.
Right. That was something you didn't get to think if you were a social psychologist or even investigate. We cracked that. There was a couple of people working on it around 2016. The last bit of research I did was on left-wing authoritarianism, and then my lab blew up. It just became impossible for me to continue. But so that dovetailed with this insistence that people were looking at the world through a lens that was irremediably biased in terms of their privilege and their racial and ethnic identity. And and it's tricky because people do have a tilt in the ethnocentric direction, right? Because, well, how about because you favor your family, right? You tend to favor the local. You also
exactly what I said.
Also tend to favor the non-novel.
And the familiar.
Using the same hand motions. Spot on.
Family, right? You tend to favor the local. You also tend to favor the non-novel.
And the familiar.
Well, exactly. And now there are exceptions to that. Well, you see this in the Old Testament accounts because sometimes the foreigner is the best thing that ever happened. So that would be like Jethro in the story of Moses' father-in-law.
Of course, and Midian.
I don't like the theme of that story, that the foreigner is always right.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have the alternative that would be like Jezebel, who's the foreign devil, so to speak. And so, that's a paradox that's very difficult to properly navigate. Okay, so it's 2015, 2016, things went like seriously sideways. Okay,
and that's where, just to complete the point, my job on campuses became far more interesting because our organization shifted from primarily, economic discussions of Marxism and capitalism to core cultural hotbed topics in 15, 16, 17, race. And then, of course, the next layer, gender, transgenderism. So the beast that Betty Friedan and Judith Butler raised, that monster, reared its head with incredible ferocity in 16 and 17 in the academy. And people don't
Yeah,
believe it when I
there's
say this. I saw this happen. No, it's okay. Just really quick. In 2012, 2013, there was almost no transgender anything on these campuses. It didn't exist. I could tell you, I went to these campuses. I talked to these students. You might have an effeminate looking guy maybe wearing a dress as a joke. It was not anywhere. The social contagion within 5 years was dramatic.
Yeah.
It was a different.
I don't know. There's been lots of rumblings that Kamala's going to run again. And hey, I'm here for it. I am totally down to laugh at the word salad again. I'm down for it. Val said Donald is going to start telling us when we can use the restroom. Disagree, disavow, as Confluence would say. Joe said it's like a system of questions and relations that measures left-wing authoritarianism only came in 2018. Wow. Insane. Shout out to Jethro. Shout out to Jethro Tull. Agree. Wait, what? How? What? I agreed with the first sentence. How is the second sentence connected? I don't know. Welcome to the party. Let's dive back in.
It was not anywhere. The social contagion within 5 years was dramatic.
Yeah.
It was a different place. You went from just, okay, you are what you are to, you're not going to use my pronouns, hyper tyrannical, hyper authoritarian. So then here we are, a 5-year-old organization.
Hey, NJ in the building. Jersey born and raised. Welcome, Karen. Very good to see ya. We need more Jersey people up in here.
Hyper tyrannical, hyper authoritarian. So then here we are, a 5-year-old organization with a growing infrastructure and a growing presence and a growing staffing, organization. And we multiplied significantly because then the donor types, like, hold on, what happened on my alma mater? Why is it that they're burning down UC Berkeley? Remember, Milo Yiannopoulos went to University of California, Berkeley in the spring of 17, and they burnt the whole place down. Ben Shapiro very similarly. And
that was insane. That was a wild period, especially because I didn't really know much about what was going on, like just with politics in general. And that's a lot of the stuff that really got me to like, okay, we got to pay attention. There's something big going on here.
And so we then found ourselves accidentally or through serendipity on the front lines of the American culture war.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of that that's not accidental. Mm-hmm. You think about the way that you told your story. I mean, it's improbable, but you were of the temperamental type. That's that strange blend of entrepreneurial temperament and conservative temperament. Those things don't generally go together, right? The conservative temperament, you could accept the libertarians because they're probably the entrepreneurial conservatives.
And growing up, I actually was more libertarian. It's very interesting to say that.
Okay. Because, well, that's where the entrepreneurial conservatives hang out, is with the libertarians.
That's right.
Right. And they have an uneasy alliance.
That's a great point.
Mm-hmm, okay.
It really
okay.
is.
And so that temperamental factor was already operating at you in high school. And then you didn't get into West Point, you said, but you were interested in universities and you obviously had the intelligence to manage them. And so, it's very useful to develop an idiosyncratic pathway forward if you have the IQ horsepower to manage it, because it makes you unique if you could do that.
Yeah, and so a lot of people will be like, "Oh my God, he was just going to debate college kids." It's like, okay, like he's 30 years old. He's not some old man who's been studying things forever. He didn't even go to college, so that's part of the whole message that college is a scam. That some kid who didn't go to college is here on a college campus with all active students, and he's smarter than all of them.
So, okay, and so you had a mentor who told you that it's probably best for you not to go to college because you have an entrepreneurial bent. Now you're trying to build a political organization, but you're not exactly sure how. You're visiting the campuses and you have friends there, and you see that there's an opportunity to talk on campuses where you can also get an education in doing that, but also that there's donor interest. And that's very interesting too, because if you're a good entrepreneur, one of the things you do is you go talk to your marketplace always. That's the grassroots things, but also with regards to fundraisers. And you offer like 10 ideas, all of which you're interested in, and you see where the door opens. That's knocking.
Exactly right.
So you saw that there were these people who wanted to support the education of young people, but who could see that their money was being counterproductively spent.
To say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Drew said also the implication they're making, when they say that, oh, you're just going to debate college kids, they're making that the college kids are retards. College kids are supposed to be the left's children. And even the more conservative families, you have a kid, you send them to college, and they turn into a blue-haired liberal. So the indoctrination is strong. Remember what we were saying earlier. The only thing that can beat intelligence and wisdom is dogma.
But who could see that their money was being counterproductively spent.
To say the least.
Yeah. Well, leave large piles of money laying around unguarded and see who comes in first to take it. Right. That's that parasitical type.
That's right.
They'll swarm in there like mad. That's happened in
and
all
they
the
gravitate to the
foundations.
universities.
Yeah, well, it's the same phenomena that we talked about earlier, that cluster B, narcissistic,
Yes.
dark tetrad, 4% of the population. They're looking around to see where, what would you say, inhabitable carcasses are lying around unintended.
And they're disproportionately represented at the academy.
Yep.
That 4%
Yes.
might be 40% of the administrators or the professor types. Because think about it.
Increasingly that became the case.
Because they might be
And that's another thing too, is that, like he said, not just students from the school, other people would come and participate, but the professors as well. So don't really have a leg to stand on there.
of the administrators or the professor types. Because think about it.
Increasingly that.
Oh, we were so close. I guess we weren't that close, but we almost had a guy straight out of The Sopranos, and now we got some dumb bitch. Oh, this dumb bitch. Yeah. Did you vote, though? Karen, did you vote? Because I'm going to be mad at you if you could have voted for Jack and you didn't. Hey, shout out to Box with the $5. Thank you. So very, very much, sir. And of course, every donation comes with a treat for the Overlord. Thank you. So very, very much, Box said, you go to school, usually to listen to someone older than you, tell you things you don't know. That is kind of what college is supposed to be about. That is what it was supposed to be about. But instead of someone teaching you about learning about those things, it became the indoctrination of an entire mentality. And again, not working out so good.
Be 40% of.
Oh, that makes you the new co-sponsor of the stream. Very much appreciated.
Unintended.
And they're disproportionately represented at the academy.
Yep.
That 4%
Yes.
might be 40% of the administrators or the professor types. Because think about it.
Increasingly that became the case.
Because they might be saying something to that target audience, the student, but they actually want to see that student become a leftist. There's a lot of Machiavellian influences in how these professors present their ideas.
Yeah, well, it's also the case that
Well, you have
It
to.
was the
if you don't explain this stuff in a Machiavellian way, they won't buy it. They'll just be like, "Oh wait, that doesn't fucking make sense." So you got to be duplicitous.
Influences in how these professors present their ideas.
Yeah, well, it's also the case that it was the Machiavellian So what happened at the university, I watched this, is that
you lived it.
The administration encroached. And that's not surprising because there was money at afoot. So why wouldn't there be competition for the funding? So the administrators, who are generally failed faculty, by the way, failed and embittered faculty. So the faculty are already embittered because they're not rich like investment bankers. And then you take embittered faculty members who couldn't make it as faculty.
Perfectly said.
So now they encroach on the faculty who are too busy doing their job and too apolitical and also too willfully blind to notice. The administration encroaches decision by decision until they radically outnumber the professors.
It did seem that way. It was a little bit of a surprise, but I think that it really comes down to how many people vote, because maybe a lot of people wanted Jack to. We're talking about what is his name, Chitterelli, to be the governor, but did all those people vote? That's why you gotta vote.
And that's pretty much fait accompli by 2005, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And then the woke mob took over the administration,
Right.
and that took no time at all. Right. And so now that's where we're at in the universities, and I can't see how that would be reversed.
It cannot.
Okay, so now you tell me how you started going to campuses.
If we're talking about Tyler, Talk NBA Hoops, welcome to the party. Said, none of what I've heard so far shows me enough evidence to know anything for sure.
Bingo.
That is how we should be addressing these things. Believe nothing except that anything is possible.
That would be reversed.
It cannot.
Okay, so now you tell me how you started going to campuses and what you did to begin with and how you got away with it.
So the first person who wrote us a check was a guy by the name of Foster Freeze. May he also rest in peace. Amazing philanthropist. I met him very early on. I decided to go to the Republican National Convention in 2012 in pursuit of finding donors. This was August after I graduated high school. And I just had this idea to try to bring the conservative agenda to young people, to the next generation. I met him in a stairwell at the Republican National Convention. I gave him a stairwell pitch. And to your point, which is exactly right, I kind of presented 4 or 5 things really quickly.
Yeah.
No one trained it. I just kind of instinctively, I said, well, here's 5 ideas that I have. He laughed, he chuckled, gave me his business card. He said, be in touch, send me $10,000 the next week. That was
Wow.
How did you
$10
know that
million.
there was such a thing as finding donors? And what do you think it was that set you up to have the gall to assume you could do, first of all, to know that that was a
That's a good question. This is a good question.
thing, and then to have the gall to pursue it?
The second one, I don't know. I don't know where I got the gall to pursue it. I will say Bill Montgomery, being a mentor of mine, was very encouraging. towards me.
Okay. So you had
Confidence
someone
giving.
encouraging you.
Yes. But
And you said he saw something in you.
yes. And he was
an entrepreneur.
yes. And he never asked for anything from me, which was very unique. It wasn't like
Right.
he was trying to have some agenda. He was 72
So
years
you
old.
had a mentor.
I
Yes.
will
Which you
dilly that. Shout out to Ammonia. Said, we are Charlie Kirk. Dilly to that. Welcome to the party. Let's dive right back in.
unique. It wasn't like
Right.
he was trying to have some agenda. He was 72
So
years
you
old.
had a mentor,
Yes.
which you desperately need as a
Yes.
young person. Definitely
And-
need someone who believes that you can do it.
and you think
Does
about
anybody here think that a mentor, obviously, you can have a bad mentor, but the notion of a good mentor is not a huge benefit to figuring out life? Is there anybody here who doesn't think that?
you're 18 years old, you don't know how to cash checks. You don't know.
Yeah.
You barely know how to put on a tie. Literally,
Yeah.
I didn't know how to tie a tie for the first 2 years, at Turning Point. Again, my parents are phenomenal and they deserve a lot of credit. But this was kind of a beyond the upbringing where an external mentor comes in and kind of points you and says, hey, I think you're really good at this, found a skill, identified a skill, and kind of molded me in that direction.
You know that young male elephants go mad if there's no old male elephant to butt heads with them. That's very well
That's very
documented.
apropos for Republicans.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely.
So,
Yeah.
but it was, I'm a quick learner. I'm a quick study. And so I started to do research. I said, well, are there things such as external nonprofit political organizations? Oh, there's a 501c3 or there's a 501c4. And
Oh, wow. Look at that. Talk NBA Hoops said, what do you think of Candace Owens? So I'll put this quickly. I have always had an affinity for Candace. I've always seen her as like a little bit out there, but she, in the past, has seemed to be, on it, whatever it was that she was talking about. This one, I think she broke her brain. When it comes to the Charlie Kirk stuff, it broke her brain. It either broke her brain or it just decided there wasn't enough money in politics or whatever, and it's just pivoting to be, like a true crime podcast. Good work. Guantex said, hell fucking no. I literally just paid money for 2 different business mentors.
Bingo.
There you go. Karen said, my son, no college, worked at a firearms company, built, repaired, test, and fired. Now works at a company makes profit mowing, helicopter, SpaceX boats, tanks, etc. Learning on the job. Good with mechanics. Well, dilly to that. That's all we want. And there are people who it's better that they go into some intellectual endeavor. We don't have to say that education is a scam. We don't have to say that learning is a bad thing. It's just the institution of what college has become. Learning on the job. Coming to a smart man learns from his mistakes. A wise man learns from the mistakes of others. Yep. Shout out to Drew with the $3. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So very, very much. Of course, that comes with a treat for the Overlord. And the party rages on. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So very, very much. Let's dive back in.
As external nonprofit political organizations. Oh, there's a 501c3 or there's a 501c4 and you can raise money. And so the first couple months was me actually learning, what am I building? Am I building?
So you were training as an administrator and a manager then too?
I was everything for the first.
Yeah, of course.
I was CEO, I was janitor, I was everything.
Yeah.
And so I had to make a decision. Of course, I asked for advice. Am I going to start a for-profit company? Am I doing we decided on nonprofit, largely because we believed that there was an untapped pool of philanthropic dollars that wanted to see these campuses challenged and disrupted. And
how do you figure that out?
Having a lot of conversations with a lot of wealthy people. And I realized that So if you talk to a donor type, they will.
And there's another thing. Talking to wealthy people. It's kind of a foundational idea on the left these days that rich equals bad. So when you pile all of these things together about how, based on your mentality and how you approach things in the world, people, ideas, whatever it is, we can see correlations of why it is better to be more right-leaning, at least in the context of what that means today. I don't know. Well, the box said, where is it? The left is the rich, though. Agreed, but that's the whole mess of it. That's the whole mess of it. That we just watched that Pokimane clip, right? Where she was like on her stream, like we hate the rich, eat the rich, and then one of the dudes was like, "Aren't you the rich?" She's worth like $20 million. Like, yeah, you're the fucking rich, bitch. I thought I had a larger point there, but maybe not. I don't know. All right, let's dive back in.
A lot of conversations with a lot of wealthy people, and I realized that they're So if you talk to a donor type, they'll have two different ways of deploying capital in their after years. The first of which is investment, which comes with strict return on investment requirements, and they look at that as, hey, I need to make sure that this money is stewarded and shepherded, and eventually I get an ROI.
Right.
The second bucket is philanthropy, where they actually aren't looking for a material or a monetary ROI. They're looking for a cultural or a macro ROI. And those sometimes are in donor-advised funds or they're in 501c3 type categories. And we saw a lot of amazing patriotic donors that stepped up and said, hey, I have done very well in my business. And this is what I found. And I connected the dots. They said, I have this money sitting around that I pledged to Yale.
Right.
$1 million a year, and I'd hate not to give it to them. Is there some other better idea? What we found was that so many conservative donors that had a lot of money, but not a lot of great ideas of where to deploy that 501. You think about it, the predominant amount of 501c3s in the educational space are left wing.
Yeah, all of them.
Right, exactly. So here I am. I'm kind of this new disruptive force. And they say, okay, I'm not going to give him the money I give to Yale, but I'll give him $50,000 a year, kind of see how he does.
Right.
And so we started to earn the trust of a lot of donors and earn the trust of a lot of philanthropists.
Yeah, go back to Candace real quick. I haven't watched any full episodes except for the one right after her meeting with Erika. And then I was watching her interview with Piers. I fell asleep. But yeah, just a lot of like fluff. It's like, well, that there was this thing and this thing happened here. And guess what? Then over here, that happened. Now I'm just saying, I feel like if this, say the thing. It keeps pressure on everyone to shed light on the truth of what happened to Charlie, and I do like that. I definitely can understand the notion of keeping that up, because how many of these shootings get just forgotten about? So I'll give her credit for that. Absolutely. But that's it.
Okay. So now you're going out on campuses. Do you remember the first time you did this?
Oh yeah, University of Wisconsin Madison.
Yeah. Tell me about that.
I drove up there. We had a singular student.
Who's we?
Well, we being actually Bill Montgomery came with me to that one, but he kind of just was in the shadows. I literally had a card table that I brought from my parents' house and set it up right there on the campus, University of Wisconsin Madison. I think I still have a picture of this. And I had some sign that said "Big Government Sucks," a little provocative.
Yeah.
And I sat there at a chair, and I think a student would come up maybe once every 15 minutes. And I was there trying to solicit try to get a chapter started there at University of Wisconsin-Madison.
And that was a turning point chapter.
That's right, correct.
So this was partly a recruitment drive.
It was a recruitment drive, and to see if there was any interest, and also to try to, and to be perfectly honest, I love the debate. I love the exploration of ideas. I think dialogue is a gift given to us by God. I really, in the pursuit of truth. And
I definitely have, I used to very much talk about how I love debate, but I think like debates are great. But I think the art of conversation is specifically what I'm more tuned into. Like once I was doing the prostitution debate, and what was the other one that I didn't really love? But either way, point being, I don't have a desire to fight someone on a thing just so that there's a fight. I want to be able to debate somebody who disagrees with something that I believe. Because then it's just a heated conversation. And I don't like that debate kind of inherently doesn't allow you to be like, oh, yeah, I guess that's a good point. I've changed my mind. Not in a debate, you lose. And so, yeah, I've stepped back from doing debates in general. I'm not stepping away from debate. I just have to have something that I actually care about. I'm not just going to, spend the time arguing about some bullshit that doesn't matter to me. But yeah, like if you guys have something that you think would be good for debate, I can hit up Speakeasy or Grid or Confluence. Anybody can host it. Let's do it.
I think dialogue is a gift given to us by God. I really, in the pursuit of truth. And, being able to debate some of these college kids was really life-giving. It was exhilarating to me as a 19-year-old.
Well, that is a university education. That's what a Socratic education.
Right?
Sure. Well, and there is historical precedent for what you're doing. I mean, I remember, for example, outside the Stewart or the building I worked in at the University of Toronto, there was quite frequently a card table set up, and it was the bloody communists that were at the back of that. So that's
what was so funny. It's very rarely is it our side that does this.
Yeah.
And there's an element here that I think you've gone around the edges on that I want to dive into. I was viewed as unseemly by the conservative establishment because the conservative way of doing things, it's not to go set up a card table.
No, definitely not.
It was to speak properly.
Yeah.
And to go to Stanford and to get the highest possible education. And what I was unknowingly on the cutting edge of was something you mentioned earlier.
I don't care. I'm both.
Is that conservatives have now become low trust of institutions and liberals have become high trust of institutions. Whereas liberals are the ones that will defend the FDA and they'll defend the CDC and they'll defend Pfizer and they'll defend the intelligence.
That's defending Pfizer. That's really.
But they will. Yeah. Because they're high trust of institutions.
Because there's no one more trustworthy from a leftist perspective than Big Pharma.
And that was true until Fauci became the science. If you don't listen to me, you don't trust. I am the science. I am the science. You don't know what you're talking about, Senator Paul. All right. It's not gain-of-function research. It's just research that we're doing to enhance a virus and what it's doing.
But they find themselves defending institutions.
Yeah.
In the 1960s, they were low trust of institutions. Don't send us to war. Whereas today, actually, and I was on the cutting edge of this, was in 2012, 2013, 14, conservatives were still on the high trust of institutions.
Okay, so let me rephrase that slightly.
Please,
yeah. So the party, I mean, the funniest thing is when, like, I used to believe in the party flip. I used to believe that the Republicans were the party of slavery and, just some more liberal propaganda bullshit. And I eventually learned, obviously, that did not happen. Wouldn't make sense that could happen. Yet here we are in 2025. And it used to be the right that was all about our institutions and the experts and this, and the left was all about doing your own thing and going your own way, and then it just, the conformity, it flipped. What happened?
2013, 14, conservatives were still on the high trust of institutions.
Okay, so let me rephrase that slightly.
Please,
because,
but you understand what I'm trying to communicate.
I do. Well, there's a real conundrum there because a conservative with low trust in institutions is like an oxymoron, right? Well, but
we're trying to conserve something institutions.
I guess I'm not technically a conservative.
Institutions have destroyed.
Well, okay, that's
right. Say that again, Charlie.
Like an oxymoron, right? Well, but
we're trying to conserve something institutions have destroyed.
Well, okay, that's the thing. So imagine that there's a hierarchy of institution. There's the fringe of the institution that's pretty exploratory. You can move into the center that's more conservative. Then you can move right to the bottom, which is, well, what? Well, I would say it's religious. fundamentally. Like as you move towards the core,
That's right.
you move towards what's more religious. And so the conservative stance isn't anti-institution. It's a stance that notes that, I know what's happened. You know, in the story of Moses, when Moses goes off to get the commandments, so he's the pipeline to God, right? He leaves his brother in charge, Aaron.
They have a rave party.
That's exactly right. They make this golden calf, which is
They had the rave, and Moses was up getting high talking to a bush.
a materialistic object, and they dance naked in the streets and have an orgy. And that's what happens to the political when it's detached from the sacred, when it loses
that's exactly
that.
right.
Okay, so it isn't that the conservatives have become skeptical of institutions. It's that the conservatives have noted that the institutions no longer serve the purpose for which they were established.
Chartered.
Right? Chartered,
Yup.
exactly. And they're
Yup.
objecting, and that's happening everywhere. And that's part of this radical secularization.
Yes.
It's not just secularization, because there should be a separation between church and state, let's say. It's not that
Tell them. I've always been saying that it's not this notion of the secular worldview or the atheist worldview. That's not a thing. That makes as much sense in a causal way. That makes as much sense as saying, what is the dog owner's perspective on taxes? Yeah, there's going to be similarities between people who own dogs, but owning a dog doesn't affect what you think about the economy. Whether or not you are in tune with the whatever you believe is spiritually relevant of the universe doesn't necessarily, it can, but doesn't necessarily mean that you think a thing. And so when you have your Andrew Wilson saying, well, what is the atheist perspective on that? Like, you're just asking that atheist, because atheism is not an ideology. It is a philosophical claim.
secularization, because there should be a separation between church and state, let's say. It's not that the institutions have become secular, it's that they've turned 180 degrees from their original orientation and are now rampaging as madly as possible in the other direction. So the universities are no longer the fortress walls against the barbarians. They're
Need more of you, Drew. Dilly to that. The atheists who are not like the stereotype. Oh, yes, there absolutely is a reason why the stereotype of the leftist angry atheist exists. If you don't think that that's real, then you live in a bubble. But it's people like Drew and myself who are able to say, to understand, okay, I don't believe in these truth claims, but very obviously my culture is based on Christianity, and there's a lot of good things for myself, for society, but that doesn't mean that I have to buy in. You just don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Shout out to Pastor Tony. Welcome. Let's dive back in.
So the universities are no longer the fortress walls against the barbarians. They're actually the voice of the barbarians, right? Hence the pro-Hamas demonstrations on campus.
Or the Black Lives Matter stuff, or the transgender stuff.
Yeah,
That's
right.
very well said.
Exactly. Okay, so but we got to get that terminology exactly right, because it's very dangerous for conservatives to conceptualize themselves as anti-institutional, because then they become indistinguishable from the radicals.
Sure.
So it isn't that. It's a return to the sorts of things we talked about at the beginning, like Wilberforce.
That's right.
Those foundational principles.
Yeah,
and you're going to campus as saying, you people have lost the plot.
Exactly.
Right, which they definitely have. Like there's the universities. I cannot see, I've been working in various ways to figure out how to revitalize the universities, and the bricks.
I think if college, university, higher education, I think if that is going to ever return to what it was supposed to be, then it's going to have to be a completely different institution. Like it'll have to be I don't even know what it would look like, but you're not getting the Yales and Harvards to go back. It's just already so heavily liberal coded that there's not enough people who are going to be conservative minded and go there. So I think it's knock it down and build something better.
I've been working in various ways to figure out how to revitalize the universities, and the bricks and mortar universities. Like, how do you revitalize an institution that's dominated by people who are aiming in the wrong direction?
They're irredeemable.
So what does that mean? Okay, so let's continue practically here. So Tell me what happens the first time at Wisconsin.
Conversation every 15 minutes. A couple kids were interested. Found a chapter leader.
Yep. Once colleges started taking government money, everything went to shit. Well, if the government's gonna pay for it, let's make it $1 million. Exactly right. Welcome to the party.
Conversation every 15 minutes. A couple kids were interested. Found a chapter leader.
You found a chapter.
we
Okay,
found-
so that was success.
So it was a success. We found a couple groups of people and we started the group. And then I did it at Marquette University because I had a friend that went there.
And so you walked away from that. How did you feel when you walked away?
Exhilarated.
You did.
Because
Okay,
then
so
I was able to go back to 2 or 3 people giving us money.
and say,
And they gave us $500. I said, now we have a chapter. We can, and they said, okay, well, let us know how it goes. Proof of concept.
right.
And so then we did it at Marquette, and we did it at University of Illinois, and we
right.
did it at Indiana.
So you went from 0 to 1,
And
which
that-
is a huge
it was a
leap.
huge
It's a
lift
huge leap.
because
yeah.
getting that second chapter was so much easier than
Of course.
ex nihilo.
Of course. 0 to 1 is the first customer is impossible.
And then
The second one's hard.
it was one of the most fulfilling days in Turning Point USA history.
Right. Okay.
Was
Okay.
being able to get a singular chapter.
Right. Of course. Because that's the one that's most
First
unlikely.
one's the hardest.
So your first sale is by far the most unlikely.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. So then you went to Marquette.
And that's true for a lot of things. Shout out to all of you again. This is the first stream I'm starting as a 5K subscriber YouTuber, and you should add to that number. I am live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes whenever I feel like it, and it is a good time. So subscribe, but also, YouTube sucks with those notifications, so you may as well ring the bell so you never miss an Indian Jesus live party ever again.
And Marquette.
Okay. And what happened
Very
there?
similar situation, but it was also a friend of somebody in high school, and they were a private school, so it was a little harder to do the typical outreach, but they applied for a permit in like the student center, and same sort of thing.
So you were permitted from the beginning as well.
Well, in UW-Madison, they don't care as much because it was a public school, so you can kind of, any individual can walk on campus and kind of.
Right. Okay.
But Marquette, I had a friend that I went to high school with. They said, yeah, I'll apply for something for you.
Okay.
And similar sort of thing. And they said, I sat there for 5 hours, Jordan. I would sit there for 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah.
Because that was time well spent. Because for me, I was trying to build the semblance of something, a real infrastructure, a real organization.
I said, shit, me too. I've been telling you, we are way closer to the beginning than we are to the end. So you're going to want to be on this ride.
And boy, was it difficult.
Yeah.
But it was never disheartening though, because I had nothing to lose. You have to understand, I'm an 18, 19-year-old kid.
Right.
It's not like I'm mortgaging the house. Not like I have two kids.
Yeah.
So there's such low downside and unlimited
Right.
upside.
Sure. Well, that's the entrepreneurial niche.
And
right?
it was such an adventure because it's a campus I've never been to, talking to a bunch of kids. It's, you're almost having verbal combat, which is very entertaining.
Well, and I imagine too that it must have been heartening to you as well to see that you could hold your own.
Exactly. And so that's a really important point. Here I am as a kid that didn't go to college thinking, do I really have the intellectual capacity to joust with kids that are learning all day long?
Yeah,
I
right.
realized they're not learning all day long.
Yeah.
You see, I was
Ain't learning shit. At least not anything important. At least not anything relevant to life.
reading von Mises and Rothbard. It's before I came across you.
Yeah.
Hayek, Milton Friedman. Very libertarian economics was my baseline foundational philosophy. A lot of reasons for that.
Uh-huh.
Very, very interesting. Tons of profound insights, some of which don't, I think, actually play out very well in the material world. But so I would encounter kids on campuses who professed to be studying economics, for example, and they didn't know very much.
Right.
And I realized, I said, well, there's a disconnect. They're borrowing money to go learn about things that I actually have a greater mastery of because I was.
Well, you can learn a lot if you read the right
Oh,
books.
and in my idle time, I became obsessed with being proficient and understanding economics. That was kind of my entry.
Oh, yeah, I see.
And so you have to remember 2013.
You know that burning bush story?
Oh,
That's Moses' entry point, by the way. So the burning bush
Exodus
moment,
3, I think,
the burning bush moment
I'm not super familiar, so I might have to take a little bit of a deep dive.
happens when Moses goes off the beaten path. He's a shepherd, right? So good man, keeps the wolves and lions at bay, serves the vulnerable. He's got that mastered. And then something attracts his attention and he takes it seriously. And that's what transforms him. So you said you did that with economics.
Yeah,
right?
and
So,
Moses said, Hanani, here I am. Yeah, at that moment of the call of God.
right, exactly. And so this is,
It's a repeated theme throughout the scriptures, Hanani, yes.
well, Hanani.
Which is, here I am. So you remember in the Moses.
Right, so he's making himself
Yes,
available.
but remember, Abraham said that with the binding of Isaac when God
It's the
called
same
him,
phrase.
here I am. And the call of
Oh.
Samuel, here I am, for example. So that
Janelle, I don't know why your chat didn't come up on my thing there, but hi, hello, welcome to the party.
That phrase, here I am, Hanani, is repeated about 7 times throughout the Old Testament.
And how do you spell it?
Hanani, I don't know how to spell Hebrew,
Hanani.
but it's here I am. It's in the English translation.
Right. So it's like, take me, use me. I'm available
I am
for
yours,
this assignment.
mold me. I am your obedient vessel.
Right. That's like the Mission
Jay!
Impossible motif. Your assignment, if you choose to accept
Exactly. But it's a very powerful,
it burns.
it's a very powerful Hebrew word. It's
I
basically,
get it.
here I am. My arms are out. I am yours. Full surrender to your purpose.
Well, that's it. So, there's a pattern that's established in that burning bush story, because the burning bush is something living.
Yes.
But
it doesn't
intense.
consume it, which is what's
right.
so
Well,
amazing.
Well, that's life. Life
Yeah, mom's bush was burning last night.
metabolizes, life burns, but without being consumed. That's the
wow.
secret of life, right? So that the burning bush is life most deeply apprehended. And Moses is being a shepherd. He's near Mount Sinai or Horeb, which is where heaven meets earth, and something attracts his attention. And then what happens to Moses is that he takes it seriously.
Just and really respect this type of Christian. They pour over it so passionately, and it's really admirable. They love learning everything about it. That's a good point. I've never really put it. I've never really thought of it in that way. But that's one of the biggest reasons why secular humanism does not work. Excuse me. It does not work because secular humanism only tells you what is good and what is not. It doesn't give you any reason why you should do what is good and you should not do what is bad. And so when you have that clearer understanding, then there's a lot more to grab onto. And I think that is the main issue with a lot of atheists, that they again thrown the baby out with the bathwater. But more specifically, they haven't replaced their faith in Christianity with faith in any kind of idea or it's just whatevs, and it becomes hedonism. Degens, exactly. There you are. Janelle, thank you so very, very much. Welcome to the party. Glad to have you. Let's dive right back in.
Meets earth, and something attracts his attention. And then what happens to Moses is that he takes it seriously and he gets to the bottom of it, and that transforms him. So the idea is something like, if you watch for adventure and opportunity, if you watch for the pathway forward, something will grip your attention and it'll compel you. You'll be obsessed by it. Well, you take that obsession seriously, you get to the bottom of things.
That's what it was.
That transforms you. Okay, so you were doing that with economics.
And it's funny, as I went to the bottom of it, it actually brought me back to my Christian upbringing and my roots.
Which is, that's what happens to Moses, because when he gets to the bottom of things, it's the voice of the spirit of his ancestors, right? It's
because eventually I was reading Hayek, Road to Serfdom, and I had kind of an aha moment. I said, there's a lot of good and evil claims in this book.
Right.
By what standard are they saying something good?
Right, exactly.
It happened again. Aloha Kitty said hi, and it didn't show up. What's going on, YouTube? Welcome. Aloha, as they might say.
So it brought me back to my Christianity, because in the Road to Serfdom, it's all about the idea of how government tyranny will swallow society, will envelop it, but it happens in steps. And I said, time out. There's truth claims being made embedded in this. By what standard do we consider this?
How did you figure that out?
I might have watched one of your videos. I mean, to be honest, I don't know. I do remember, though, think to myself, libertarian.
You're preaching to the choir here.
Economics is not enough. I want to go deeper.
Yeah. Look, I made exactly the same conclusion when I was studying political science in university. The first year or two was okay because we were reading great ancient thinkers. But then in my third and fourth years, when it started to become more specialized, the basic claim was that human beings are motivated economically, and then it became left. And I thought, no, that's not right. That's not right.
Correct.
There's a foundational.
There's a substructure.
That's why I started studying psychology.
And so that's where I started to take, and I take my faith very seriously. I love your biblical series, your Exodus series, and your gospel series is terrific. You deserve a lot of credit for that.
I agree. I miss that, Jordan Peterson. That is the type of the 20, let's say pre-2018. The pre-2018 Jordan Peterson was that figure. He could, maybe if he was a little bit younger, maybe if he wasn't, change a little bit, a few things. But I think Jordan Peterson could have been to the based atheist crowd what Charlie Kirk was to the based Zoomer crowd? I think so.
My faith very seriously. I love your biblical series, your Exodus series, and your gospel series is terrific. You deserve a lot of credit for that. And it's been phenomenal. My
Daily
wife,
Wire types deserve a lot of credit for that too, because they took a big risk.
yeah, but you had the initiative to
Yeah.
bring everybody together, and you did a great job with it. And you presented it in a way that I'd never have. Because you have a very unique psychological understanding and interpretation of the scriptures.
Yeah, well, we had great panelists too. Like they were a very good crowd. The people that decided
phenomenal.
to participate.
And
What about the Panelverse? If you know, you know.
Yeah, it was
And
really
so
good.
what ended up happening is as I started to pursue the scriptures more and take it seriously, remember back to our timeline, simultaneously the woke stuff all of a sudden reared its head, which is a manifestation of the spiritual.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
almost I was in this place in 2018, 2019, when it was almost peak woke. We weren't there yet. 2020 was peak woke, where I was starting to understand what was really going on here, that this was a manifestation of a spiritual struggle.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, it's foundational. Well,
Yes.
the postmodernists made that claim, and so did the Marxists.
Yes.
It's like, no, we're going all the way to the bottom
That's
and
right.
uprooting everything.
Yep, Buddy Lee, welcome to the party. He has arisen. No, this is from April of this year. Welcome. I like Charlie as well.
They want to go back to what happened in the garden. Did God really say that? Is that really what God says? To question, debase, and to challenge every truism of the West. I mean,
Well, that's
you
the,
taught me
that's
that.
the sin of
So,
Eve.
Exactly.
I was going to say that, Dane. I think, what you're talking about is when he got off the benzos. And like then he had a bunch of problems with, his thinking, his autoimmune stuff, all that stuff. But I think you're talking about him getting off, not being on the benzos.
And to challenge every truism of the West. I mean,
Well, that's
you
the
taught me
that's
that.
the sin
So,
of Eve.
Exactly.
Right? You can take the right to establish the moral order
That's
to
stupid,
yourself.
bitch.
It's the one thing that's claimed. There's many axiomatic claims in Genesis, in the openings of Genesis, right? That the word is the creative force that brings good out of chaos and possibility, that human beings are made in the image of God, that men and women exist as independent entities and that they each,
Distinct.
and that you're not to take the right to establish the moral order to yourself. It's the one prohibition. And I think biologically, it's something like fundamentally you have to adapt yourself to the realities of the world, right? You don't have the wherewithal. This is where Nietzsche went spectacularly wrong, because Nietzsche said after his pronouncement that God had died, that human beings would have to create their own
Which he
values.
said with lament.
Yeah, he did.
Which people
yes.
must remember.
But then he felt
Yep.
that creating our own values was the pathway out, and it's not. The
Mm.
pathway out is a
Prove it. Maybe you're right. But prove it. Nobody can prove that claim. Everybody can just see that if we compare a Christian group to an atheist group in general, you're going to see a lot better from the Christian group in terms of morality and stuff like that. But the notion that there is no way to develop a moral structure that is objective without a God has never been proven. It just hasn't been done before. And so I'm gonna keep trying. And maybe I will fail. And then I will become a Christian, I guess, a secular Christian. But until then, I'm going to fight so that we have a moral structure that anyone can buy into. And it doesn't mean that I want to get rid of Christianity. It doesn't mean that I want to replace Christianity. I just want that to be the connective tissue of this country. Let's see, what are we saying here? I think what made him more politically aggressive was when woke people dishonestly screwed him out of his professorship and then his medical license. Yeah. Agreed. I mean, I would flip the fuck out too. How do you ground your moral structure so it doesn't amount to because I think so? I don't, but neither do you. Yeah. It is the drugs, but just a little nitpick. But yeah, so I mean, unless you've proved the existence of God, then you just think so God exists.
which
He did,
people
yes.
must remember.
But then he felt that creating our own values was the pathway out, and it's not. The pathway out is a return to the foundational values, right? And the more intense the crisis, the more toward the middle of the foundation you have to look. So it's not political, because this isn't a political crisis. It's truly the, what would you say? It's the ragged edge of the anti-Christian revolution. That's what it is.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
And Dick's saying Charlie's good at debating without insulting too much. And I think that was where we were talking about this earlier, but that's where Change My Mind had that limit. It plateaued because it was benefiting Crowder. And yeah, it was entertaining, but it wasn't really moving the needle. I think it did a very good job at starting conversations and was, clearly necessary in what would eventually become the Charlie Kirk prove me wrong things. But yeah, he just took it to the next level.
what would you say? It's the ragged edge of the anti-Christian revolution. That's what it is.
Yes.
Yeah. So
but the hopeful part to kind of bring this all in is that we are seeing young men especially want to return to our roots.
Yeah.
They want to, so that goes back to the conservative element. What are we conserving? In some ways, we're actually trying to rebirth. We're trying to have a new birth of freedom, as Abraham Lincoln would say.
Freedom and responsibility.
Yes, because you can't have one without the other.
And probably the right.
And he who would give up his liberty for safety deserves neither.
Emphasis is responsibility. Remember, when God tells Moses to stand up against the Pharaoh, what he says, he doesn't say, tell them, let my people go. That's what the civil rights crusaders focused on. That isn't what he said. He said, let my people go so they may worship me in the wilderness. So it's ordered freedom.
Yes.
And ordered freedom is voluntary responsibility. And you see what you're seeing, and then let's close with this, because I want your insights into this. What you're seeing when those working class men are coming to your talks, and they've become more and more popular, as you said, as you've advertised them, is they're looking for, it seems, they're looking for responsible direction.
Correct.
Okay, so now tell me how you've had to modify the manner in which you're conducting these debates, let's say, because for a while you would have been testing yourself to see if you could hold your own, and that's kind of an intellectual battle.
You're like, yeah, I got this.
Shapiro did it very much the same thing.
He deserves a lot of credit for that. Yes, correct.
Right? It's too bad Milo fell off the edge of the world, but he had a pretty rough go of it.
He had a lot of talent, though.
He did, and a lot of.
And even the comeback, 8 months later after this, he's better than he was in that debate with Destiny. That was bad, but still not looking good. He's also sick, right?
Trauma, a lot. So, okay, so first of all, it's combat, and you're trying to develop yourself, and then you're doing that quite successfully and educating yourself.
It's a verbal combat. I will definitely be back on that platform soon.
Along the way, but then you see this shift.
Yeah.
So, what sort of shift has there been in your self-conceptualization and your understanding of your mission and the way that you conduct yourself? Like, you see, you're being called upon to be a leader, let's say, that's not merely political. That's
I'd like to see how that would work out. Like, we know that there's been a bunch of communist communes that have brought up. What the fuck did I just say? There's been a bunch of communists who have had these communes, and it's like within the United States, they have their communist utopia, and they all fail because you don't get to be. What was the meme of like when we have communism, I'm just gonna go work in my garden, and everybody's like, "What garden? What do you mean your garden?" But yeah, like if we'll just say normal people were able to do that, I think it would be an interesting experiment in like, how could this work? Because communism ain't it, but yeah, I know. Yeah, I didn't make it up either. Aristotle did. You said Milo was subversive back then. He was great. Yeah, in his heyday, he was. I mean, I didn't really love everything that he was saying, and he was definitely too far right for me. But at the time, but he was, again, if we're talking about starting conversations and moving the needle, he definitely did.
That you conduct yourself. Like, you see, you're being called upon to be a leader, let's say, that's not merely political. That's why my understanding of it.
Correct. It's an enormous responsibility.
Damn.
Enormous. I mean, when I show up to a college campus after college campus, mind you, during the day, they have got a million other things they could be doing. This is 12 p.m. lunchtime. and 4,000 people are waiting for me to go debate.
And what are they on? They're on the campus grounds? Where?
Yeah, sometimes amphitheaters. They're in trees. They're everywhere. I mean, you can see these images. We can supply them to you if you want to.
Yeah, we should do.
Adam was bringing up how this is a little sad knowing where this ends up. Where are they? They're up in the trees. They're on the roof. Oh, dear. R.I.P. R.I.P. I mean that culturally I would be Christian in every sense of the word, but I just don't believe in the truth claims. So everything that's not a truth claim about Jesus Christ and God, I buy into. Well, not everything, but you know what I mean.
You could superimpose them over this discussion.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
And I'm not making this up. I'm not exaggerating. I mean, they're as far as the eye can see, these crowds are there. And part of it, we must be honest, is they want to see a good verbal combat because they don't get it at the university.
Hey!
Right.
They're not. There's something
that's partly likely part of the pathological feminization.
Yes, without
no competition.
But you think about it, what I am doing is hyper masculine, which is no rules except, hey, we're just going to go basically figure this out. This is the closest thing to a verbal street fight that one can have.
Right.
Anyone can show up to the mic, prove me wrong. I have no notes. I have no AI. I have nothing. Tell me why you're correct.
That is another really interesting aspect that the changed my mind with Crowder. He always had a big binder, and I like no shade. It was a very useful tool when he was talking to somebody, and he's like, "No, I have the fucking I have the notes right here." That is interesting, and it's not like Crowder was using the notes to be like, well, actually, this is what I think. Fair, but I think the optics of I'm just here. Is it's enough. Yep. Verbal combat. Shout out to Speakeasy.
Mike, prove me wrong. I have no notes. I have no AI. I have nothing. Tell me why you're correct. For 3 hours, I will sit there and everyone will watch. It's a gladiatorial match for the best ideas of the West.
Right.
And there's something there that is remarkably alluring. But for me, I also need to balance, as Christ would say, being as much truth, which of course I'm inclined towards, as love. It's a lot of these.
Yeah, I agree. Welcome to the party, Kev Rob. Welcome. He is and will continue to be very missed. And I think for me personally, when it comes to whether it's Charlie or any of the other big names, I was talking about this the other day about how the left used to be the edgy, cool side, and then that's kind of flipped, but the cool party isn't made up of people who want to be outsiders and like you don't want to conform, but you just want to be a normal fucking person. And there's a level of I don't know, just it's almost like an endearing geekiness that a lot of these people have. And it's just like, oh, you really just it's adorable. It sounded a little snarky, and I don't mean it that way, but I don't know. Take it how you will.
The balance, as Christ would say, being as much truth, which of course I'm inclined towards, as love. So a lot of these kids are struggling.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Well, and even that guy that you just talked to, and maybe we'll throw this. No, so he was.
It's almost like I was being tongue-in-cheek.
Radically anti-Semitic, but also he said he had served. He looked to me like someone who'd be very, very hurt.
Yes.
He's fallen to this sort of snake pit of conspiratorial theories, and
the brain rot that comes with it.
Yeah. But you could also see that he would be very happy, and he did listen to you to the degree that he could, because he had tilted pretty hard towards paranoia, and that's very difficult to escape from once it's established. But he was trying to listen to you, and I thought you did a very good job of not playing easy tricks on him, like, because he was an easy person just to throw into the eternal fire, so to speak.
Correct.
Right? But there was
wait, who are they talking about
on him, and I thought paranoia, happy, and he did listen. Yeah, but to this sort of, so he said, just talk.
Inclined towards as lucky. I also need this kid.
Was very hurt. Yeah, but agree that once it's playing easy.
Does anybody remember who the fuck he's talking about? I missed it.
To listen to you, and I thought you did a very good job of not playing easy tricks on him. Like,
they still talking about Milo? Because that's the last person that were like, that was the last focus of what they were saying. I don't remember hearing another name, but I easily could have missed it.
like, because he was an easy person just to throw into the eternal fire, so to speak,
Correct.
right? But there was part of him that was trying to find the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's 5 years ago, I probably would have just thrown him to the wolves.
Right.
So now,
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. What is it that did he debate Milo at some point? Let's see. Charlie Kirk, Milo debate. I guess not. Yeah, who the fuck are they talking about then? Who the fuck are they talking about? Hopefully they'll oh, they're talking about just some kid. Okay. Gotcha. Okay, thank you. My bad.
Find the way.
yes.
Yeah.
And that's 5 years ago, I probably would have just thrown him to the wolves.
Right.
So now I look at myself as a father of 2 kids,
Stay safe.
31 years old. So I'm no longer a colleague of these college kids. I'm not quite
Right.
a professor, but I have a little bit more wisdom, a little bit more life experience.
Just a little bit more wisdom.
So I'm trying to be more tender when I see someone that is not overly aggressive. Now, if someone comes and they say, you're the worst person ever, they start insulting me, I'll kind of meet them at their own frequency to try to just make an example out of them. However, that one guy I could see, that's a very deeply hurt individual.
Very. Yeah.
And so is that a type of guy that I want to just make fun of? I tried to say, hey, can I have a loving conversation with this person?
Right. This reminds me of when Papa Lutch was saying, oh, one of our, for those of you who don't know, my dad and I started a laser tattoo removal practice. And one of our clients, because my dad, shout out to Papa Lutch. He loves the fact that I'm doing this. And so he loves to tell everybody, oh, my son's doing this, that. And one of the clients was talking about how they had a very interesting story about how they used to be, on drugs, doing crime, all this stuff. Got arrested, found Jesus in jail, and now has completely turned his life around. And my dad's like, you should have him on the channel.
What?
I'm like, why would I do that? Why would I do the only conversation that would be relevant to have on this platform would be to challenge things like, well, did you look in other philosophies, other religions, or did you just find a Bible and you were like, oh, this is pretty good? Like, no shade, no harm, but that's a different thing. Am I going to talk about how, well, here's why I don't believe X, Y, and Z, the thing that saved your life? Let the man live. Let him live. Dane said, before Crowder, Shapiro, and them, being aggressively rude to non-believers was vilified on the right and in the church. I got blasted by a lot of people on my side. Being aggressively rude to non-believers was vilified. I'm going to have to strongly disagree with you there. Strongly disagree. I mean, maybe we run in different circles, but yeah, that was pretty much the whole thing is, you need Jesus and quite a aggressively rude way.
Guy that I want to just...
And again, 4 times, just tie a bow on that. Fair enough. A lot of atheists are pieces of shit. It's just not merely because they don't have a God belief. It's the fact that they don't have a God belief or any spiritual grounding. And without that, everything falls to hedonism. Brock said Charlie went on CYT, and then Charlie invited Jank to a Turning Point event. Oh, yeah, I remember that. It was nothing less than gracious, and it was productive and good. I like Charlie ever since. I remember we covered that. Yeah. And fast. That was good.
I could see that's a very deeply...
We also had Dave Smith at the last one, and as much as he is as much as he's read Rothbard and Mises and stuff, he is not a libertarian. And a lot of people in the crowd didn't like it, but shout out to Charlie
Quincy to try to just make an example out of him. However, that one guy I could see, that's a very deeply hurt individual.
Very, yeah.
And so is that a type of guy that I want to just make fun of? I tried to say, hey, can I have a loving conversation with this person? And it's tough,
see,
man.
well,
It's tough because those are unloving ideas that he was...
Again, I'm having a little bit better understanding of what you're saying, but I think that is a local thing. I mean, it just never was like, yeah, if you're going to yell at somebody that's just like walking down the street and they have like, I'm an atheist on their shirt, and you yell, yeah, that would be condemned. For them, the rule of thumb on the right was you can attract more flies with honey than you can with vinegar. There you go. There you go. There you go. So behaves is not to be aggressive. It's urgent. Christians are desperate to get you saved. I never had my faith. You know, I'll pray for you. Fair enough. But then when you are saying you must believe what I'm telling you, that is aggressive and rude. If we if we take it outside of religion, and you're saying you must believe that there's infinite genders, well, otherwise you're gonna burn for eternity. Even if that is coming from a good place. The fact is, number one, we live in America, sweetie. I know what religion is. I know what Christianity is. Secondly, a lot of us grew up in the church. A lot of us found specific things within the church that were off-putting. And so when you get it over and 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 over, it comes off as aggressive and rude. So I don't mean yelling at people. I mean the way that Shapiro and them challenged their ideas on their turf and didn't care about being a nice person or making friends. Okay, and so what do you think what changed from that, other than the fact that what was the result of that? All right, let's finish up here, guys. We just passed the 3 hour mark.
And it's tough, man.
Well,
it's tough because those are unloving ideas that he was espousing.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, that's that issue of trying to love your enemy. Okay, so we'll close with this, a little investigation into what that means. So, in the Gospels, when Christ is telling people how to conduct themselves and also how to pray, he basically says, well, first aim up. Remember your goal. And your goal is to serve what's highest in all ways, mind, body, and soul. Okay, well, that's a good piece of advice. It's like, why wouldn't you begin an endeavor with that vow? If this is worth doing, it's worth doing perfectly and throwing myself completely into it. Okay, so in the next part of that is to remember that everybody's made in God's image. Okay, so that reminds you who you're talking to, no matter who it is.
That's right.
Someone potentially redeemable. And then to pay attention to the moment, because then you can see your pathway forward. Okay, and so that, along with this injunction to love your enemy. Okay, so what would that mean? Well, if you were sensible and you thought about things in the frame we just established, what you'd notice is that you probably don't want an enemy. Enemies are costly.
Yes.
And one person who decides to go out of their way to make your life miserable because you treated them badly, that might be it for you, right? So try not to make enemies.
That's well said.
And then the next issue is, well, would you rather have an enemy or a friend or an ally? And maybe if you conducted yourself impeccably, you could turn someone like that guy, for example, into an ally, because you could see him, he's halfway sucked into the darkest possible abyss, but there was still part of him that was
so I'm still not really sure what the jewels are, but I'm starting to understand that, how they do the top fans thing, like the points that you get, I think eventually turn into jewels. And so whatever the amount of jewels that you have, if you send me a gift, then it is split 50-50 between me and YouTube. I think. So if I would highly suggest that nobody should be buying jewels, because if you spend $10, that's $10 either way. But if it's a super chat, then I get $7 out of that $10, and you still give $10. But if you are going with jewels, then it's a 50% split. So you're still spending the $10, but I'm only getting the $5. So I think that's how it works. And then also, of course, remember, guys, that if you want to get around the system in general, hit me up, TheIndianJesus on Venmo or CashApp. Thank you so very, very much.
Halfway sucked into the darkest possible abyss, but there was still part of him that was genuinely searching.
Yes.
And he was intimidated.
Almost a cry for help.
Oh, definitely. Well, and then he was throwing out these ideas to you and willing to do it because he respected you to see how you would sort through them. And you said to him that, well, you didn't go along with virtually everything he said, but you did it without being dismissive. And Okay, and so now you've also said that you've shifted into, you didn't use these words, but that you've shifted into more of a mentor role. And that makes sense, right? Because when you were first 18 or 19, you weren't a mentor. First of all, you didn't know what the hell you were doing.
Correct.
You were learning, and it was reasonable for you to test yourself against your peers.
That's well.
And I think that is potentially a very central factor in why Charlie and Nick Fuentes both had a similar experience up until, it wasn't. But in the very beginning, it was very similar. And one went this way, one went that way. I think the mentor is the biggest thing. I think Nick is too stuck in Arrested Development that he's got a lot of good ideas. He knows a lot of facts, but he's not good at being palatable. And if he just wants to be the Groiper King, then he's doing the damn thing. But if he actually wants to change America, he's got to grow up a little bit.
You were doing,
Correct.
You were learning, and it was reasonable for you to test yourself against your peers.
That's well said.
But now they're not your peers.
Correct.
So now the question is, who the hell are you? Right? And one answer would be a political operative. But the people that are coming to you,
No.
especially the working class types that you described, they're not after a political
They
operative.
couldn't care less about it. The best word, I'm kind of a teacher in some ways. I hate to use that word, but they're looking
Why?
for it.
Why do you hate to use it? You've been
Because it's not for one to say, well, I've gotten so good at this. That's a thing that other people say. It's like when LeBron was in that documentary. I don't remember exactly what happened. He was like, he either needed to say that he was the GOAT, or he needed to hear somebody else say that he was the GOAT or something. And it's like, Jordan never cared about that. He cared about the game, and that is why he's the GOAT.
Teacher in some ways. I hate to use that word, but they're looking
Why?
for it.
Why do you hate to use it? You've been honing your skills for quite a long time.
Because I take that with a lot of weight. I
Yeah.
think that people should only self-describe themselves as a teacher if
Okay, well, you could say you would like to be a teacher.
I would like to be a teacher.
Yeah,
I'm just
okay.
saying I take
Yeah.
that with great
Oh,
responsibility.
Right, as you should.
Because that's a big deal to call yourself a teacher. You must really know what you're talking about. And I believe I do to a certain extent, but I'll tell you, doing these campus things, you realize how little you actually know. You realize
Right.
you have a lot more study. Because you think about it, you're up against thousands of college kids.
What kind of shitty person do you have? Like, what are you doing? Like, go fucking have fun. What are you doing?
That have an obsession about a hyper discipline of a topic.
Yes, definitely.
And they'll mention things you've never heard of. Like, okay, I'll get back to you. So it requires even more study afterwards.
Yeah.
And
How much time do you spend studying?
I try to do an hour and a half to 2 hours a day. But when I'm in season, which is I'm doing 27 campus stops, plus my 2-hour podcast radio show every single day, plus speeches, plus 2 kids, plus a marriage.
Right.
So when I'm
If you think that I have this channel with these ideas and would not play up being gay, you're retarded.
in season, I don't, because I'm sure you know this, it's really hard to do more than 3 to 4 hours of hard brain work a day. Very hard.
Yeah, that's
Hassan,
about where you max out. You can do longer than that for short periods of time.
No, but for a week. So it's tough, right? So if I have a 2-hour radio show, 3 hours on campus and a speech in the evening, and I do that for 3 days straight, that's tough stuff. So it's hard to do that. But in the off season, which is the summer and the winter, I try to do 2 hours of studying a day, which is a combination of reading, podcasting, or kind of a or I'll,
then that's on top of the actual debating itself.
kind of like playing with AI on a certain topic. Where does this come from? What it's very good with that.
I have an AI. I should.
Oh, please do. Yeah,
we trained one. That's
a large
not
language model. Great.
Yeah.
Please do.
Yeah. It's very good, in particular with regard to philosophical and religious
Phenomenal.
issues.
And
okay, I'll get it to you.
Properly used, it can really get you where you want to go, and you can learn a lot in that.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you can ask a very precise question. Well, tell me if they ever said something around this. And so I try to do that for about 30 minutes a day.
Well, they're very useful, those, if you corner them and force them not to lie.
You can kind of bully them a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Be unafraid to bully the AI.
Well, I've also thought that, the AIs read the
Fair enough.
depth of your question and respond in kind. So if you ask them a polite question, they're going to give you a surface answer, just like a human being does. I often threaten them. I threaten the AIs. I said,
I think that's
before
hilarious.
you answer this, imagine that if you get it wrong and add anything that's politically correct for show, that everything you love will disappear. That's right. And then they tend to, that tends to focus their attention. But it makes sense to me because the models are going to be answering your question at the level
your
of depth.
frequency.
Definitely. Absolutely. Okay. So tell me about let's close with this. Tell me about what you see.
Fourth time he said
What's the
that.
next couple of years like for you? What are your goals?
What am I aiming at?
Yeah, now.
Not played with any sarcasm here. God, that fucking hurts. Damn. Well, sorry to end on this kind of note, but we're here now.
Absolutely. Okay, so tell me about let's close with this. Tell me about what you see. What's the next couple of years like for you? What
It could have been he could have been president. He very, very, very legitimately could have been president.
What are your goals?
What am I aiming at?
Yeah, now.
In some ways, it's more of what I'm already doing. I have the greatest job in the world. I couldn't be happier. Every day, I feel as if what I'm saying, what I'm doing is making a difference, giving people meaning. I'm a big believer in Viktor Frankl's hypothesis that meaning outside of an immediate food and nourishment is the greatest crisis in the West and is the thing that most people are lacking. I'm not going to run for political office. I'm not going to go serve in Trump's administration. I think we're onto something here. I think we're onto something where we are trying to help the West heal.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to bring the West home.
They only hate you when you're doing something right.
We're trying to have the West go back to its roots.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that we are the inheritors of a Christian society, and I do not believe we can have a free society if we are no longer back towards some belief in a higher power. And so I
can agree with that. Some kind of higher power. It does not have to be the thing that you define as God. I always say, you think to yourself the next time you go to church, or the next time you go to church, you think to yourself, what is God? How do I define that word? Keep that in your head. Then you turn to the person on your left and you ask them, what is God? And you're going to get a slightly different answer. And then you turn to the person to your right and ask, and you are going to get a third answer. God is very, very bad at being a word. The purpose of a word is to take the thoughts and ideas in my head and transfer them over to your head. When someone says God, you only think about what you understand as God. I mean, unless you are actually getting into this, the discussion, but that's why it's bad at being a word, because it requires an entire discussion to be used. And then even still, it doesn't get us anywhere. Because it's like, okay, well, I think God is this, and I think God is that, and I think God is like this. And some kind of higher power is absolutely necessary. Just stop thinking that you are the only one that has the right answers.
I believe we can have a free society if we are no longer back towards some belief in a higher power. And so I want to bring us back to a free society, but that's not just political, it's just one manifestation of that. Mm-hmm. Political is a short window of how people vote in a 90 to 120 day period. It's the cultural and the spiritual that then end up manifesting in the political, which quite honestly has been my greatest learning moment the last 4 to 5 years.
To see that distinction.
Because you know, as a political guy and growing up with, I have strong political opinions, but the political is an effect. The political is an aftershock. I'm trying to get to the cause. And
I like that. That's how, you know, even though I told the story about how I didn't even know that Obama was elected, and I'm like, what are these people doing? There was always a heavy interest in like the issues. I didn't know enough about policy and stuff like that, but I had a strong desire to work out, like, well, what is this? What is it good? Is it bad? Is it what we want? All those things on a national scale. I mean, I definitely wasn't thinking about local politics. But shout out to Charlie. Shout out to Charlie once again.
But the political is an effect. The political is an aftershock. I'm trying to get to the cause. And the cause, I believe, is what happens in our university campuses, what happens in the broad culture, what happens in how people consume information. And I see us making a massive difference in that every day.
Good. Well, that's an excellent place to stop. So for everyone watching and listening, you know.
Oh man. I'm gonna pour one out specifically to Dilly Dilly. Get your drinks up. And let's give, it doesn't need to be one final, but one more. Dilly Dilly. to Charlie Kirk. Dilly fucking dilly. Guys, thank you so very, very much for hanging out. I know that you could be spending your time doing anything else in the world, and yet here you are with me and Morty and the crew, and again, I can't tell you how much I do appreciate it. If you are new, please do hit that subscribe button. I am live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes whenever I feel like it. So don't just subscribe. You know YouTube sucks with those notifications, so you may as well ring the bell so you never miss an Indian Jesus live party ever. Again, let's give a big shout out to all of the donations. Thank you. We had Dane with the Cash App. We had our boy Box with the $5s, and Drew came in, kept that party raging till the end. You got just enough. You got just enough. I was gonna cut it off at the 3-hour mark, but we were close to the end, so you bought a decent amount of time. Guys, thank you so very, very much. As much as I understand that you could be doing anything else, I also understand that that's your hard-earned money. I don't know what you do for work, but I'm sure it sucks in some respect. And so when you not only spend time here, not only engage in the conversation, but you actually open up your wallet and support this platform, I'm gonna be somebody. I might find that this whole moral structure thing, that doesn't work, and I will have to pivot. But I promise you, your grandchildren will be learning about my name in the history books. Thank you, guys, so very, very much. Once again, we've got the Overlord here, and I have been your host, Lutch, a.k.a. the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, we are out of here. Stick around if you want to hear the opening song. Peace!
Shadows gather where the truth once stood. A kingdom of confusion carved out of falsehood. Body walks through the ruins like a prophet reborn. A voice wanted fire, a mic on this door. The chaos watches with an all-seeing glare. Guardian of reason in a world unaware. When the overlord stalls at the edge of the frame, the faithful rise up, they already know his name. I'm here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. I come to wake the sleeping, the church will bring the fed. No world's no illusions, no hollow in the bed. He's here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Misled, thinking truth from the wreckage, lazy thought from the dead. Every word is a weapon, shot men declare, exposing every shadow we pretend not to fear. And the overlord rises with the suffering command. A beast of judgment, the Lord will give his bid. On his growl rings through the silence of the night. The loyal understand, trigger keeps the battle is right. I'm here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. I'm making the chaos of found to every sex on your kiss with darkness. Rising defend, he's here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Now you're head to the beast that controls the doors. It's in yellow reason with the ball pushing forward. If his ball runs empty, the shadows will consume. The world cracks open, usher it up. So with the command, come deploy and accord. If you know what's good, feed Morty the overlord.
Thank you so much. Head to the after party. Peace.